Chapter 1780. Li Fan's sword was too fast. His sword play was like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, it pierced Prin and the old woman's throats. This pair of enemies could not even react in time. They did not expect Li Fan to still be able to counterattack under such circumstances. Both of their bodies disappeared, and Li Fan stepped on the ground again, accurately stepping on little Jiro's head, kicking him until he almost fainted. But this brother's vitality was tenacious. Borrowing Li Fan's strength, he managed to burrow into the ground again and sneak to the next floor. As the saying goes, a ninja must endure when it is time to endure. Only strike when it is time to strike. The other experts were actually intimidated by Li Fan and did not dare to step forward for a moment. Jiang Feng seized the opportunity. He instantly shot forward, his shining longsword aimed at Li Fan's head. Li Fan's body was indeed still restricted, but his sword was still shockingly fast. Before Jiang Feng's sword could reach him, Li Fan's longsword had already pierced his wrist. Although Jiang Feng had the body of a Jura, he could still feel pain. His wrist was in pain, and the sword almost fell out of his hand. But Jiang Feng still held on. His sword finally pierced Li Fan's shoulder and came out from his back. Blood was dripping from the corner of Li Fan's mouth. His injury was not light at all. However, when he endured the pain and prepared to give Jiang Feng another strike, Jiang Feng had already retreated and landed on the side. If this continued, it would not work. Li Fan suddenly let out a roar. The War Dragon's roar instantly hit the two Wudong and Shaolin masters, and their bodies swayed at the same time. Dragon, catch your hand. Li Fan pulled with his left hand, and Yuan lost control of his body and was immediately dragged forward by Li Fan's strength. The old monk's mind was still calm. He took advantage of this force to pull out the Buddha staff on his back. With a Dharma staff that carried the power of wind and thunder, he struck towards Li Fan. Li Fan stretched out his left hand and pinched the monk's staff with just his fingers. The dragon's seizing hand was too domineering. Even this accomplished monk still fell prey to Li Fan's Tao. At the same time, Li Fan swung the sword in his right hand and pierced the old monk's throat. The old monk's body slowly dissipated, while perfected Ziyu was greatly shocked. He did not expect that even Yuan would not be a match for Li Fan. Li Fan naturally would not let perfected Ziyu, who could disturb him, off. Without waiting for Ziyu to react, his body turned into an afterimage and instantly appeared in front of Ziyu. At the same time, he raised his sword. Perfected Ziyu panicked and did not react in time. Just as he was about to die under the sword, he heard two clangs. It turned out that Qingqing's Wang Jiajun and Amei's Lu Ying had appeared beside him. The two of them waved their weapons at the same time and barely managed to block Li Fan's sword. Swoosh! Long Tian Kojiro appeared above perfected Ziyu's head, holding a brand new tachi with both hands. He swung it at Li Fan, aiming for his head. Li Fan could only retreat, while perfected Ziyu broke out in a cold sweat. Life and death were really decided in an instant. After a few minutes, there were only 6 people left in the room. They were Jiang Feng, perfected Ziyu, Long Tian Kojiro, Lu Ying, Wang Jiajun, and Immerse. However, Li Fan was also riddled with scars, which gave everyone some hope in their hearts. Don't be afraid, everyone. He's injured. Wang Jiajun pointed at Li Fan and said, as long as we work together, we will definitely be able to defeat this Devil King. Why don't we try a special formation? Jiang Feng pointed at Li Fan and said in English, Immerse, you're a knight and have the strongest defense. You'll restrain Li Fan's movements. I'll cooperate with you from the side. Senior Wang and Senior Lu will also be responsible for wandering around and attacking Li Fan when the time is right. Perfected Ziyu, please use the power of Tai Chi to restrain Li Fan. Jiang Feng wanted to imitate the formation of online games, relying on the main tank to attract aggro while the others attacked in coordination. Unfortunately, there was no healer. Otherwise, Li Fan would be dead for sure. Okay. Immerse's body burst into a silver-white glow as if he was wearing a mech. He stepped forward, held his shield, and began to fight with Li Fan. He also thought that his defense was strong and was ready to subdue Li Fan. Unfortunately, What he did not expect was that Li Fan seemed to be even more ferocious. Without waiting for Rez to entangle Li Fan suddenly flashed forward and performed the dragon soaring through the heavens. He drew an arc and appeared behind Rez in the blink of an eye. At the same time, he stabbed with the long sword in his hand and accurately hit Rez's only vital point, which was an acupuncture point on his back. No matter how strong the defense was, there must be a vital point. Li Fan's eyes were like torches. He easily identified it and took Rez, the only main tank, away. Fuck! Jiang Feng's hands trembled slightly. Damn it, this boss's damage is too high. Even if the main tank can pull aggro, he can't maintain his HP. The rest of the people were also a little stunned. What could they do if this went on? The western camp had been completely destroyed, and now only the remnants of the eastern camp were left. As for that Li Fan, he was clearly seriously injured, but he continued to attack as if nothing had happened. He continued to attack and kill when he needed to. If this goes on, we will definitely die. Wang Jiajun frowned. This person's martial arts far exceeds ours, and his willpower has reached an inhuman level. Li Fan had indeed become a little different. Jiang Feng also did not know how to evaluate him. But was this Li Fan really invincible? No, there is absolutely no invincible existence in this world. Jiang Feng's eyes turned quickly. His gaze suddenly fell on the silver coffin next to him. Jiang Feng's figure moved, and in the blink of an eye, he landed on top of the silver coffin. He then raised the sword in his hand and pointed at the silver coffin below. Li Fan, if you don't surrender, I will destroy this silver coffin. Li Fan frowned. He was originally going to kill Wang Jiajun. Seeing this scene, he stopped in his tracks. Jiang Feng, you have lost your martial ethics by doing this. Now that things have come to this, why are you still talking about martial ethics? Wang Jiajun laughed out loud. Li Fan, oh Li Fan, I didn't expect you to also have something that you are afraid of. Who is hiding in this silver coffin? It can't be a pretty girl, right? As long as we control the silver coffin, the world will be saved. Luing also breathed a sigh of relief. The immeasurable Lord, even if it's a little shameless, we can only do this. Taoist Yu, who had escaped death, also murmured, Almsgiver Li, if you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for doing too many outrageous things. Everyone, Li Fan looked at them coldly. I will only ask you once. Do you insist on breaking the rules of this game? Chapter 1781. Li Fan narrowed his eyes and looked at the few people left in front of him. So what if I broke the rules of the game? Wang Jiajun finally found a way to turn the tables. It was as if he had grabbed onto a life-saving straw. Moreover, this straw seemed to be Li Fan's weakness, which was fatal to him. What about you guys? Do you also have the same idea? Li Fan once again asked the others. The remaining people also decided to use the silver coffin as a means to threaten Li Fan. Li Fan, if you don't surrender, you won't be able to keep the silver coffin. Jiang Feng raised a long sword in his hand. I'm afraid you know better than me what kind of effect this sword has. That's right. Wang Jiajun pointed at Li Fan's amorous sword. Use that sword to cut off one of your hands and one of your legs first. Since you've decided, then don't blame me. Li Fan let out a muffled groan. His body suddenly began to swell. In the time it took for a breath, he had returned to a height of more than 3 meters. At the same time, a huge aura filled the entire demon tower. Whether it was Wang Jiajun or Jiang Feng, they all felt their bodies stiffen. Then, it was as if they were bound by some force, unable to move. Jiang Feng's cold sweat immediately dripped down. He understood that this was not some special ability. This was Li Fan's true strength. It was like a giant standing in front of you. When you saw him, your heart trembled, your legs went weak, and you didn't even have the strength to move. Under this kind of terrifying pressure, everyone was unable to move, not even a finger. Swish! Li Fan held a huge sickle in his hand. With a light wave, he cut Taoist Master Ziyu's body into 2 pieces. Taoist Master Ziyu slowly disappeared, leaving the surrounding people dumbfounded. This kind of terrifying power had already made everyone afraid. Just as Li Fan said, it was really just a game before. He was just casually exchanging blows with everyone. When everyone began to disobey the rules, Li Fan once again showed his true strength. 100 times the strength. Just the pressure alone was enough to make people kneel in submission. At this moment, the rest of the people began to regret. They had just given up the only way to survive. Li Fan acted as if he was harvesting. He held the sickle and swung it again, cutting Lu Ying of Mauname into 2 halves. "No, don't kill me." Before Wang Jejun could finish, his head was cut off by Li Fan's sickle. Noisy, Li Fan held the scythe and stared at the remaining 2 people. One was Jiang Feng, and the other was Tutsuda Kojiro. "Perhaps, on Earth, the 2 of you might be the last 2 people left alive," Li Fan said slowly. "However, there are only a few minutes left, or maybe a few seconds. We lost." Even Tutsuda Kojiro put down all his weapons and knelt on the ground. "Grant me death." "All right." Li Fan responded to every request. With a wave of his scythe, he pierced through Tutsuda Kojiro's chest and sent him flying. Soon, Tutsuda Kojiro's body began to collapse in the air, dissipated, and then turned into nothingness. "You're the only one left." Li Fan looked at Jiang Feng. "You've lived for a while longer, that's enough." "Li Fan, what are you trying to do?" Jiang Feng really couldn't figure it out. "You've saved this world countless times. Why do you want to destroy it? What's your purpose in killing everyone?" "You don't need to know." Li Fan looked at Jiang Feng coldly. "It's related to this silver coffin, right?" Jiang Feng knelt on the silver coffin and suddenly understood something. "Tell me, let me die knowing." "You don't deserve to know." Jiang Feng used the 3rd princess to threaten Li Fan, causing Li Fan to be angry. He no longer gave Jiang Feng a chance to speak. He stepped forward and swung his sickle at Jiang Feng. However, in that instant, Jiang Feng managed to raise his sword with great difficulty and place it in front of him. Clang! This so-called reforged godly weapon was actually cut into 2 by Li Fan's sickle. Li Fan's sickle grazed Jiang Feng's chest and cut his stomach open. Jiang Feng clutched his cracked chest, his body slowly disappearing. So, Jiang Feng was too smart. He seemed to have realized something. But at this moment, Li Fan's sickle arrived again and cut off his head. All humans on Earth had been wiped out. At this moment, Li Fan had finally completed his 100-day plan. Li Fan turned around and gently stroked the silver coffin with one hand. Then, he climbed the steps again, returned to his throne, and sat down again. The 9-tailed divine fox transformed back into her original form, twisted her slender waist, and stood under Li Fan. At this moment, in the underwater world, Lu Xiaohu could no longer sit still. "No, I have to go out and take a look." Lu Xiaohu pushed the 2 7 Knights swordsmen away and walked towards the room where the submarine was docked. The submarine was the only way to travel to and from the underwater world. However, Bai Lin Luo had instructed that this place was heavily guarded and no one was allowed to pass. Even Li Fan's 2 disciples, or Lin Yuichisen, who was the closest to Li Fan, were basically under house arrest. "I can't stay here any longer." Lu Xiaohu saw that a few sword guards were blocking in front of him and immediately scolded. "Get lost. I want to leave this damned place and find my master." As far as I know, this meticulously built underwater city shouldn't be that bad. At this moment, Bai Lin Luo separated the crowd and walked in front of Lu Xiaohu. "Get them out of the way," Lu Xiaohu roared. "Otherwise, I won't be polite anymore. These few people are no match for me." "Are you going to attack your own people?" Bai Lin Luo lightly frowned. "Xiaohu, you are the chief disciple of the 7 Knights Villa. At this time, you should restrain your actions and set an example for the villa." "It's at this time that I can't sit still." Lu Xiaohu wholeheartedly wanted to get out. "I must know what's going on outside." As soon as his voice fell, Bai Lin Luo's pupils suddenly turned white. The last few humans were just killed by Li Fan. How do you know?" Lu Xiaohu was a little surprised. "This is another ability of mine." In this year, Bai Lin Luo's second ability was awakened. He seemed to have inherited the ability of prophet, and slowly mastered this mysterious power. However, Bai Linluo's ability was not particularly powerful. At least he could not see what was happening outside of Earth. Bai Linluo did not understand what happened in sky beyond Avalon. But Li Fan wanted to destroy the world, so he must protect these people for Li Fan. That was all he could do for Li Fan. What is Master trying to do? Li Xiaohu was anxious. No, I must go out and find out. Chapter 1782. Calm down. Bai Linluo was also a bit troubled. Lu Xiaohu's personality was really annoying. You can't control me anyway. Lu Xiaohu was about to make a move, but Bai Linluo said, I can't control you, but someone else can. As soon as he said that, a cold rebuke came from behind Lu Xiaohu. Stop right there. Lu Xiaohu turned around and saw Jiang Yi standing behind him. He immediately put on a crying face. Damn it, why did this girl catch up? Jiang Yi, aren't you worried about Master? Master is invincible. Why should I worry about him? Jiang Yi was full of confidence. In this world, the person who can hurt Master hasn't been born yet. Besides, it's Master who destroys others, not others destroying Master. What's there to worry about? You, Lu Xiaohu, gritted his teeth. Are other people's lives not worth living? Since Master wants their lives, then they're wrong. Jiang Yi said without hesitation. What if Master wants your life? I'll give it to him with both hands. Jiang Yi did not think and directly answered. Moreover, Bai Linluo, as Master's military advisor, has never made a mistake in planning for Master for so many years. I believe in Master and military advisor, so I won't go out and cause trouble for Master. I'm too lazy to care about you. Your logic is simply a bastard. Lu Xiaohu lifted his feet and was about to walk out. However, a shining sword was placed on his neck. Lu Xiaohu took a look and saw that it was his master's black, extraordinary sword. As Master's sword-holding disciple, seeing the sword is like seeing Master. Senior brother, you won't go against Master's words, right? You girl, don't you have any respect for your seniors? Lu Xiaohu was choking with anger. They actually drew their swords against each other? According to seniority, you're my senior brother. But this sword represents Master, so senior brother should know his place. Jiang Ye's answer was very appropriate, which made Lu Xiaohu furious. Fuck, I'm not afraid of you. Lu Xiaohu stretched out his hand and put on a tiger fist stance. At most, I'll fight with you. Sure. Jiang Yi smiled. Master was worried that your personality would ruin things one day, so he taught me a move specifically to deal with you. What? Lu Xiaohu's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. You lied to me. Come and try if you don't believe me. As Jiang Yi spoke, he put away the extraordinary sword and hung it on his waist. Fuck, you don't even need your sword? Lu Xiaohu knew that Jiang Ye's dragon subduing sword was the strongest. She didn't even need to use the dragon subduing sword. So, she was obviously confident. Was she trying to trick him? But wasn't she afraid that he would make a move on her and expose her? Fuck, I don't care anymore. What's the point of thinking so much? I'll fight first and talk later. Thinking of this, Lu Xiaohu directly pounced on Jiang Yi. However, Jiang Ye's foot slipped back, his body turned sideways, his hand grabbed Lu Xiaohu's body, and he threw him aside. Lu Xiaohu tumbled. He was not convinced, so he adjusted his posture and launched another attack at Jiang Yi. Lu Xiaohu's tiger fist had already been used to the extreme. His whole body was like a hungry tiger coming out of its cage, quickly arriving in front of Jiang Yi. The tiger claw on his left hand clawed at Jiang Ye's forehead. Lu Xiaohu practiced this move the best. He could scratch 5 holes in an iron plate with just one claw, not to mention Jiang Ye's skull. However, Jiang Yi moved to the side, as if he understood Lu Xiaohu's martial arts very well. Every move he made was within River Ye's grasp. After Jiang Yi dodged Lu Xiaohu's attack, he easily caught him and then pressed him to the ground, making him dizzy. What kind of martial arts is this? Lu Xiaohu rolled on the ground, flipped himself up, and looked at Jiang Yi in shock. Oh, this is called Tiger Fist. Jiang Yi explained. Master thoroughly studied your martial arts, and then passed this set of martial arts to me. He told me that if you were to show off, I would use this set of martial arts to suppress you. Indeed, the tiger fist did not cause any harm to Lu Xiaohu, but it could make him dizzy. Master is so biased. Lu Xiaohu was unconvinced. Why didn't he pass me some martial arts to deal with you? Because his character is calmer than yours. Jiang Ye's explanation was reasonable. Just stay here obediently. With that, Jiang Yi sealed a few acupuncture points on Lu Xiaohu's body, temporarily sealing his movements. Fuck! Lu Xiaohu was extremely annoyed. He couldn't go out even if he wanted to. He just couldn't understand why Master wanted to destroy the world. Li Fan naturally has his reasons. Bai Lin Luo looked at Lu Xiaohu, sighed, and then comforted him. If you believe in your master, then stay here with peace of mind. I believe that it won't be long before you have an answer. Bai Lin Luo's analysis was correct. In just a few days, the deadline of the 100 Days plan had arrived. Li Fan sat in his magic tower, and beside him stood a few figures. The 4 sacred beasts, azure dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, and vermilion bird, all stood in 4 directions of Li Fan, and a 9-tailed divine fox was lying on his side next to Li Fan's throne. It was really a luxurious lineup. At the same time, the ceiling above the pagoda was also opened, and from here, one could directly see the sky. The eldest prince and the second prince were also sitting in front of Li Fan, showing off their prowess. When the 2 brothers arrived in the human world, they also began to learn the enjoyment of the human world. In the past, they were wearing golden robes, but today they had changed into the clothes of the human world. The eldest prince was wearing a German military uniform, while the second prince was wearing a white suit. The 2 of them drank the wine, toasting each other, eating and drinking. It was a joyous occasion. Li Fan, you did a good job this time. As expected of the Sinner King that Elder Rin personally conferred. The eldest prince raised his wine cup to Li Fan. Come, have a drink with us? Li Fan ignored the eldest prince and just sat there, closing his eyes in deep thought. Royal brother, it's not appropriate for you to say that now. The second prince chuckled. What is the status of the Sinner King now? He is the person who destroyed Earth and carried out the 100 Days plan. After this, the Elders Guild should at least confer him a true royal family. The 2 of them muttered, looking rather unconvinced, but Li Fan turned a deaf ear to them. All the plans were for today. At this time, the sky suddenly became a little dark, and a golden cloud emitted light. In that light, a few figures stood in the cloud, slowly descending along with the golden cloud. A golden light also appeared from the cloud, covering Li Fan's magic tower. At the front, it was none other than Elder Rin. Behind him were the people from the Elders Guild, and the rest were the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of Sky Beyond. As for the rest, after they settled down in Sky Beyond, they would naturally let everyone come down together. Chapter 1783. Welcome, Elder Run. The plan was about to be completed. Li Fan patiently walked down from his throne and knelt down in front of the clouds. On the clouds, Elder Rin was standing at the front. He had 6 other elders with him. Li Fan took a closer look and realized that only Elder Li was missing. Li Fan frowned slightly. What was going on? Did Elder Rin have something up his sleeves? This damned old man was too fucking crazy. If he left an elder in Sky Beyond Avalon, then his plan would be affected. Very good. Sinner King, you have done well. Elder Rin ignored the 2 princes who were drinking beside him. He landed in front of Li Fan happily, his face full of excitement. You have completed the 100-day plan. This piece of land finally belongs to us. It is my honor. Li Fan asked. I have completed your mission. When can I extract the soul-suppressing nail from Qiu Shuang? Don't be anxious. When the 8 of us elders are here, we will naturally help you. Elder Run waved his hand. Elder Li is currently cleaning up the aftermath in the sky. 7 days later, we will move the immortal supremacy to this land. All right, then 7 days later, may the elders please save Qiu Shuang. This matter could not be rushed. Li Fan had already waited for so long. What more week? In this week, these elders would probably check around to see if this piece of land could belong to them. However, after they saved Qiu Shuang, he would immediately destroy Sky beyond Avalon. Then he would release all the humans in his little universe back and let Earth return to its original state. The plan was almost flawless. Hopefully nothing went wrong. Let's put Xiao Shuang's matter aside for now. Eldarin chuckled. We still need to reward you according to your contributions. The Sinner King has executed the plan perfectly. We are very satisfied. From today onwards, you are a member of the primitive celestial race. You do not need to call yourself the Sinner King anymore. I represent the Elders Guild to bestow you the status of Imperial Prince. From today onwards, you are a true royalty, higher than the feudal vassals but lower than royalty. Thank you, Elder Rin. Li Fan said, however, I no longer have any thoughts about these. All I want to do now is to save Xiao Shuang and find a place to live in seclusion with her. We'll never bother ourselves with the affairs of the world. Don't worry, I will definitely satisfy you. Elder Rin comforted Li Fan. 7 days is enough. All right, thank you, Elder Rin. Li Fan nodded. I will be going back to the skies beyond in the next 2 days. How about we meet in this Devil Tower in 7 days? All right. Elder Rin did not mind. Let's meet here in 7 days. Li Fan carried the silver coffin on his back, along with his 4 mythological beasts and the 9-tailed divine fox. He stepped onto the unique, auspicious clouds of the outer heavens and traveled from Earth to the outer heavens. After he left, the 2 princes turned around and looked at Elder Rin. Elder Rin, this person will definitely be a scourge if we let him live. The first prince gritted his teeth and said, since he has already completed his mission, why should we keep him alive? Although this person is powerful, he still has his flaws. Elder Rin folded his hands in his sleeves. His entire person seemed to be several decades younger, and his face was full of smiles. As long as we grasp his flaws, we will be able to control him. In the end, this person is just a sharp blade in my hand. This is a double-edged sword. The second prince reminded. This time, he and his royal brother had the same opinion. Raising him is like raising a tiger that will bring calamity. I know what I am doing. Princes, don't worry. Elder Rin waved his hand and interrupted the second prince's words. He will forever be under my control. Elder Rin believed that he had his own way to deal with Li Fan. At the same time, he used Li Fan's tower as a base and began to have his subordinates set up an outpost in the skies beyond. At this moment, Li Fan had already returned to the skies beyond. With a wave of his hand, a 3 to 4 meter long white tiger beast appeared under him. It carried him and sped as fast as lightning. Soon, they arrived at Xiao Shuang's conferred land. It seemed like he was cultivating in seclusion here. His doppelganger, on the other hand, had gone to the palace in the imperial capital without anyone noticing. At this moment, there was no one in the imperial palace. The place that used to be heavily guarded was now filled with a gloomy aura. Not a single living person could be seen. The 2 princes had been sent to the human world. Most of the people were in a deep sleep and had not woken up yet. However, there was one person who was awake. It was the brother that Li Fan was looking for. Li Fan carried the silver coffin and rode the white tiger. He arrived in front of the imperial pagoda and walked into the pagoda. Who is here? A familiar roar rang in Li Fan's ears. Li Fan answered directly, It's me. Come up. The twin lion king stood on the 10th floor and looked at Li Fan, who was walking up. Although it was still the huge and shocking body, it was just a doppelganger of the real Lion King. I feel that the outside is different. The twin Lion King's doppelganger pointed outside. The forces that I fear are 7 less. Yes, I asked them to temporarily migrate to Earth. Li Fan nodded. After 7 days, they will migrate the immortal supremes to Earth. In that case, the Lion King doppelganger looked at Li Fan. He pondered for a moment and continued. A few days ago, you seem to have been hit by the soul-subduing nail. Yes, I reached an agreement with the elders. Li Fan nodded. That day, the 5 elders used the soul-subduing nail on me. In order to save me, my wife, Xiao Shuang, used a secret technique to remove the soul-subduing nail. At the same time, her soul was also sealed. Now, Only those elders can remove the soul-subduing nail. As long as we kill them, the soul-subduing nail will disappear. So that's how it is. Li Fan said. I also had such a thought. Although Eldarin said that even if he dies, the soul-subduing nail will remain. How is that possible? Any technique in the world needs the support of a person's strength. The Lion King's doppelganger curled his lips. Those old foxes are the most cunning. Using such methods to control you is not what a hero would do. You and I were controlled like this. Li Fan sighed. But now that they're using methods like the soul-subduing nail, I'm not afraid anymore. You have already mastered the small universe and entered the true universe level. The Lion King doppelganger looked at Li Fan with some respect. Even in our world, there are very few who can reach this level. Although you borrowed my strength, you also contributed to it. If I can also master the small universe, why would I be afraid of the so-called soul-subduing nail? Yes, I will wait for 7 days. When they migrate the immortal supremes to Earth, I will go to Earth and deal with them. Ridiculous. You have been tricked by them. Chapter 1784. You've been tricked by them. The Lion King's avatar immediately reprimanded Li Fan. Their immortal array is built by the immortal reverence body. If these people move the immortal reverent to Earth, then they'll be invincible on Earth. I see. After hearing this, Li Fan was not surprised. He had experienced so many things, his personality had long become calm. As the saying goes, counter soldiers with arms and water with earth. If that's the case, I should have a way to deal with them. Li Fan thought for a moment. I don't know if this method will work, but I could try using Elderly. Elderly stayed in Sky Beyond Skies, so Li Fan planned to take her down. Although I don't know what method you'll use, if you kill Elderly, won't you alert the enemy? I'll need your help then. Li Fan cupped his hands. This is the last thing I'll ask you to do for me. Sure. The Lion King's avatar readily agreed. I'm just an avatar. I'm not afraid of anything. My real body has long broken through the void and returned to the great wasteland. If I kill Elderly, then I'll trouble you to pretend to be her. Oh, are you implanting me? The Lion King's avatar thought for a moment. If it's just a temporary replacement, it shouldn't be a problem. Those few elders are suspicious of each other and are in conflict with each other. They usually keep their distance from each other. Then I'll have a trouble, big brother. Li Fan cupped his hands. This time, he came to the royal family's demon-subduing pagoda to see this twin Lion King from another world and discuss with him to see if there was any good plan. After all, he was the only one who could discuss it this time. Moreover, Li Fan's real body was currently in Sky Beyond Skies, looking for a place to cultivate. The one who came to this pagoda was only Li Fan's avatar. With the bone armor, Li Fan could only rely on his avatar to communicate and prevent secrets from being leaked. The Earthlings were all gone. Eldarin should have relaxed her surveillance on him. However, Li Fan still tried to be considerate to avoid alerting the enemy. I wish you success. The Lion King's avatar felt that it was fate that he got to know Li Fan. After helping you, I will leave this plane completely. However, I have a feeling that we will meet again one day. Yes, I look forward to that day. Li Fan silently left the demon-subduing tower of the Imperial Palace, then hid in the darkness and began to search for Elder Li's aura. Most of the people in Beyond Avalon were in deep slumber, and the remaining people had gone to Earth. In this case, it should not be difficult to find Elderly. Even though it was just a clone of Li Fan, it had the strength of half a heaven immortal. He released his spiritual sense and carefully sensed the aura around him. Soon, a powerful aura, like a thread, was gently grasped by Li Fan. This was Elderly. Judging from her direction, she should be in the great hall of the elders. This female elder stayed alone in Beyond Avalon. What was she doing? Li Fan did not alert the enemy. He slowly followed this aura and sneaked towards the elder's palace. Li Fan was not worried that he would be discovered. After he cultivated the little universe, his avatar also had a unique ability to restrain its aura, making it impossible for others to detect it. It was very convenient to use an avatar to investigate. There was no one along the way, until he reached the entrance of the Elder's palace. Only then did he see a few guards guarding here. They had also woken up with a 100 days plan and were waiting to occupy Earth. Li Fan easily avoided their eyes and ears, entered the hall, and continued to follow the aura to find the room where Elder Li was. The place where the 8 elders lived was very simple. Elder Li's room was no exception. It was a simple one-bedroom room with only a futon for Elder Li to cultivate. Li Fan saw her from a distance through the window. Elder Li seemed to be cultivating. She sat cross-legged in the middle of the room, looking down and her body emitting a golden mist. Li Fan was not in a hurry to go in. Instead, he hung his body on the ceiling of the corridor and stuck his whole body behind the beam, like a spider spinning a web, quietly waiting for the arrival of his prey. If you want to find trouble with Elder Li now, she would definitely notice. After all, she was a real celestial immortal. But as long as he attacked her unprepared, even if she had the power of half a celestial immortal, Li Fan was confident that he could kill her with one blow. There were still 7 days before the appointed date. Within these 7 days, as long as Elder Li wanted to leave the room and step into the corridor, Li Fan could take her life. To be precise, Li Fan used his unique ability to defeat Elder Li and forcibly take her into his own world. Once she reached his little universe, wouldn't he have the final say? Once he reached there, whatever Celestial Prime's array would be ineffective. Li Fan planned to use Elder Li as an experiment. This was the only way. Take one step at a time. Li Fan did not have a good brain. He was not like by Lin Luo or Lin Yuchisen, who could take one step at a time. But until today, this chess move could be considered to have a solution. Li Fan even began to use the tortoise breathing technique. He even stopped breathing and stuck to the beam like a dead person. 2 days passed in a row. On the 3rd day, Elder Li finally seemed to be unable to sit still. At her level, no matter how much she practiced, it was difficult to improve. If she wanted to reach the level of a Celestial Prime, it was impossible without hard work and some opportunities. Damn Ren. Elder Li opened her eyes, but like a shrew, she first cursed. They ran to Earth to eat and drink, but let me stay here to guard. Gar my ass, there is no one alive here. As she spoke, she stood up and walked out. No one knew where she was going. Just as Elder Li entered the corridor, Li Fan suddenly opened his eyes and his body fell like a bat. Who is it? Elder Li was shocked. Her body was about to expand rapidly. But at this moment, the long sword in Li Fan's hand was a step faster and instantly pierced her throat. Poor Elder Li, with the strength of a celestial immortal, could be said to be a super expert, and Li Fan's doppelganger only had half of her strength. But with the help of a sneak attack and exquisite swordsmanship, she was forcibly subdued. Elder Li did not have a chance to speak or ask for help. Her body instantly collapsed and turned into specks of starlight, disappearing in front of Li Fan. Li Fan did not hesitate. He landed in the corridor and hid in the darkness. Once again, he looked down and instantly arrived in his own small universe. Li Fan deliberately sent Elder Li to the moon. Li Fan also directly appeared on the moon that he had created. On this bumpy ground, a 10-meter-tall female giant was glaring at him. Chapter 1785. Elder Li was indeed a super expert. She stood on the moon and transformed into a 10-meter-tall female giant with 3 heads and 6 arms. She was like the mythical Neza, glaring at Li Fan. How dare you? Elder Li's body twitched. She didn't know where she was sent to, but this was definitely not Earth. Perhaps she was transported by Li Fan to a place far away from heavens beyond. In this place, Elder Li couldn't feel the connection between her and the Immortal Prime's formation. But it didn't matter. After all, she was a celestial immortal. If she wanted to destroy a little Li Fan, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? So, Elder Li directly revealed her avatar and glared at the tiny Li Fan. Although there was no air around, it didn't affect Elder Li, who had used her avatar. Li Fan quietly stood in front of Elder Li. Although he was 3 meters tall, he was like a tiny dot compared to Elder Li. Since you want to die, then I can't let you live," Elder Lee said, and suddenly summoned a big drum. The drum was inlaid with eyes one after another. This big drum was more than 4 meters long and hung in front of her chest. At the same time, she held a drumstick in each of her 6 hands. Elder Lee's 6 hands hit the drum together. Every time the drumstick hit the drum, a thunderbolt immediately shot out from the eyes on the drum and bombarded towards Li Fan. After all, it was the power of thunderbolt. If it hit Li Fan's body, even his golden body might not be able to withstand it. But now, in Li Fan's little universe, Li Fan was a god. He just stood there calmly, letting the bolts of lightning strike his body. But after these thunderbolts hit Li Fan, there was no ripple at all. It was like a clay ox entering the sea. How is this possible? Elder Lee was shocked. Even the other elders couldn't easily block her true fate thunderbolt. Was she seeing a ghost? Continue. Li Fan hooked his finger at Elder Lee. Li Fan, your time has come. Elder Lee flew into a rage. Her other 2 mouths each contained a scarlet bolt of lightning. Red lightning was Elder Lee's strongest ability. This thunderbolt had the power of 1,000 caddies. Even steel would instantly turn into molten iron if it were to eat this red thunderbolt. However, Li Fan simply stretched out his finger and flicked the red thunderbolt, causing it to vanish into thin air. Impossible. Elder Lee's 3 jaws were about to drop. This was absolutely impossible. Nothing is impossible. Li Fan snapped his fingers, and the ground suddenly trembled. A huge stone palm rose from the ground and lifted Li Fan's body, sending him more than 10 meters into the sky. The palm was like a throne, and Li Fan sat on it. In this world, I am the master. With that, his palm pressed down, and a giant mountain more than 100 meters high immediately fell from the sky and smashed onto Elder Lee's body, pressing her onto the mountain. Elder Lee's 6 arms supported the mountain, and her legs trembled. She half knelt on the ground, but her heart was full of fear. This is your microcosm? Elder Lee is very knowledgeable. Li Fan nodded. You actually know about microcosm. How, you actually have a microcosm? Elder Lee was dumbfounded. What was a microcosm? It was an ability that only immortal sovereigns could have. This Li Fan also had a microcosm? Damn it. Elder Lee was a little desperate. How could she fight against an immortal sovereign? Nurturing a tiger would bring disaster. It was really nurturing a tiger would bring disaster. He is clearly an earthling. How could he cultivate to the immortal sovereign level? You won't have the chance to understand. As Li Fan said this, he stretched out his hand, and Feng Xiaoxue suddenly appeared next to Li Fan. Go, extract her energy. Yes, my master. Feng Xiaoxue nodded and appeared in front of Elder Lee in the blink of an eye. Without waiting for Elder Lee to react, her palm had instantly pierced through the top of Elder Lee's head. I can't accept this. Elder Lee wailed a few times, and her huge body suddenly began to wither. Her life force was constantly extracted from little snow. The huge mountain finally smashed onto the surface of the moon with a loud rumble. Li Fan's experiment was successful. He relied on a sneak attack to collect Elder Lee, and then brought her to his microcosm. He successfully killed her and extracted her energy, which could be used to replenish his microcosm. This method works, but I'm afraid it's impossible to collect 7 elders at once. But before they move the immortal sovereigns away, I should still have a chance. Li Fan had a new idea. He returned to the real world in an instant. His main body opened his eyes and saw the silver coffin quietly placed beside him. Li Fan waved his hand, and the coffin lid flew open, revealing a familiar little beauty inside. Although Qiu Shuang had not woken up, her complexion seemed to be much better. Li Fan stretched out his hand and gently touched Qiu Shuang's forehead. After checking, Li Fan discovered that one of the soul-suppressing nails in Qiu Shuang's body was indeed missing. It seemed that it was possible to kill the elders. If that was the case, it seemed like there was no need for the twin Lion King's clone. He should take the opportunity while they were still on Earth to kill them all. He did not know if he could challenge 7 elders alone. But now that things had come to this, it was time to settle things. Thinking of this, Li Fan sighed, and then gently stroked Xiao Shuang's cheek. Very soon, I will be liberating you. This time, I will make them pay with their lives for you. This time, he could not carry Xiao Shuang's coffin. If they really fought, he would not be able to protect the coffin. During this period of time, you should stay with the Lion King. Li Fan thought for a while and decided not to let this Lion King's clone stay idle. He left the room by himself. Later, his clone would come and bring Xiao Shuang's coffin to the Demon Suppression Tower. After doing all this, Li Fan once again arrived at the gate that connected the Outland to the human realm. However, there were two mighty grandmasters standing in front of this door. Of these two generals, one was wearing a dragon helmet, and the other was wearing tiger armor. These two were called Xianglong and Fu Hu, and they were the generals who guarded the gate of the Outland. Usually, when Li Fan walked past them, the two would not make a sound and would stand there like statues. But today was a little different. These two were staring intently at Li Fan, as if they were guarding against him. Li Fan ignored them and walked towards the 5-meter-tall gate. "Stop!" Xianglong suddenly raised the spear in his hand and pointed it at Li Fan and scolded. "Elder Ren has ordered before 7 days, no one is allowed to descend. Elder Ren is really cautious." Li Fan smiled. "But what if I have to go?" Chapter 1786. Then don't blame us for being impolite. The two generals, Xianglong and Tiger Vanquishing, raised their weapons at the same time and aimed at Li Fan. One of these two brothers held a dragon snake spear and the other a tiger head saber. They glared at Li Fan, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Li Fan reckoned that these two definitely wanted to kill him in their hearts. Otherwise, they would not have such a big temper. In the past, with the protection of the Elders' Council, they did not dare to do so. Now that he disobeyed the order, he naturally fell into their trap. "You broke the rules yourself. Don't blame us, brothers, if you die." Xianglong snorted coldly. He raised his dragon snake spear, aimed at Li Fan, and stabbed at Li Fan's cheek. If this stab landed, a hole would probably appear in Li Fan's head. But why would the current Li Fan fear the two of them? Although these two had the strength of exalted immortals, Li Fan did not care about them. He just reached out and grabbed Xianglong's dragon snake spear. At the same time, Li Fan bent his hand upwards. With a crack, the spear immediately broke into two. Li Fan took advantage of the situation and stepped forward. He raised his leg and kicked Xianglong's calf. Xianglong screamed in pain. His calf was broken, and he knelt down. Li Fan added another kick to his head. With a splat, Xianglong's head exploded. This brother did not even have the chance to resist and died. "It's your turn." Li Fan turned his head and looked at Tiger Vanquishing. Tiger Vanquishing's face was pale, and his body trembled slightly. He did not even understand how his good brother, who had followed him for thousands of years, died. He was clearly just an earthling. Why did he have such terrifying strength? Sky Immortal. This was probably the strength of a Sky Immortal. "Either submit to me or die." Li Fan only left these words. I'm willing to submit." Tiger Vanquishing had guarded the door for God knows how many years. Life was just a long consumption for him. But even if it was consumption, it was still better than death. The longer one lived, the more one feared death. Fu Hu knelt down in front of Li Fan. Li Fan nodded. He extended a finger and tapped Fu Hu's forehead. An azure dragon mark branded itself on Fu Hu's forehead, causing his body to tremble slightly. "This is the azure dragon seal. Only my servants can possess it. It can strengthen your body in strength, but if you dare to betray me, your soul will be devoured by the azure dragon seal. I would never dare to betray you." Fu Hu understood that this earthling had probably been prepared for this long ago. This time, he must have come down to Earth to have a decisive battle with the Elders. The Elders were all far away on Earth, so their immortal formation should have lost its effect. Under these conditions, this Earthling might really win. But after he wins, will he forgive us? Fu Hu did not dare to think further. He had already used his life to engage in a grand gamble, but whether he could win the gamble was still unknown. At this moment, Fu Hu really wanted to cry. He missed his good brother, Xianglong very much. This guy died too quickly. It would be good if he left more last words for him. Li Fan sent Fu Hu away. He opened the door to the human world and once again returned to the human world. At this moment, the location of the human world's demon tower had completely changed. At this time, around the Devil Tower, there were platforms built one after another. There were all kinds of heavenly soldiers and generals standing on them. The 7 elders were standing on 7 platforms, casting some kind of spell. And in the sky, the clouds were slowly dispersing. Amidst the clouds, one could vaguely see a huge figure. This was the immortal summoning formation. The immortal sovereign usually slept in the ancient tomb. If they wanted to bring him out of the ancient tomb, they had to use a special method to summon him for 7 days and 7 nights. A new tomb had been built in the seawater below. This was the future sleeping place of the immortal sovereign. It was very safe here, enough for the 7 celestial immortals to enjoy eternal peace. But at this moment, a golden light descended from the sky. Li Fan's 3-meter-tall body landed in front of them, standing on one of the platforms. "You're back." Elder Ren raised his eyelids and glanced at Li Fan. "Don't disturb us now. You can leave." He did not seem to want to pursue the matter of Li Fan passing the trial. "Do you think I will let you complete it?" Li Fan crossed his arms and looked at Elder Ren. Li Fan, I know you have ulterior motives, but do you think I did not guard against you?" Instead, Elder Ren smiled confidently. "Those who are not of our race are bound to have different intentions. This is what you humans say, but it is true. Let's not talk about the 7 celestial immortals here. Just the bone armor I put on you is enough to take your life. It's just a bone armor. Do you think you can trap me?" Li Fan did not think much of it. "This bone armor has my formation on it. You will soon know how powerful it is." As Elder Ren said that, he stopped casting the immortal summoning formation and changed to another formation, Bone Devouring Heart. As he cast the spell, barbs immediately grew out of the bones on Li Fan's body. Every barb grew into Li Fan's body, piercing his flesh and blood, and began to spread towards his heart. Before long, Li Fan's heart would be pierced, but he endured the pain and reached out with both hands to grab the bone armor. Li Fan actually pulled the bone spikes out of his body one by one. Every time he pulled one out, blood spurted out like it was free. If not for the fact that Li Fan already possessed a body that surpassed that of a human, he would have bled to death a long time ago. This bone armor completely ignored his immortal body. But Li Fan's tearing speed also increased. Soon, all the bone spikes were pulled out. The last bone spike had already pierced through Li Fan's heart, but he still pulled it out and threw it to the ground. His heart was already broken, but Li Fan still stood there calmly. He reached out and activated the Dragon Catcher hand. A lower immortal from the heavens was pulled over by his strength and held in his hand. Before the man could scream, black tentacles flew out of Li Fan's body, pierced into his flesh, and devoured him. The flesh on Li Fan's body squirmed. Soon, all the wounds on his body were gone. His upper body was bare, and he stood in front of Elder Ren in one piece. Because he had changed his skin a few times, the Overlord subduing the tiger painting on Li Fan's back was gone. But the current Li Fan did not need any tattoos at all. He just stood there, and he was the Overlord subduing the tiger. How is this possible? Elder Ren was a little surprised. He did not expect Li Fan to survive under such circumstances. Elders, use the soul-suppressing nail. Elder Ren bellowed. Chapter 1787. Use the soul-subduing nail. Elder Ren let out a roar. The 7 elders nodded simultaneously, then extended their hands, each summoning a black nail, and shot it towards Li Fan. These soul-subduing nails were extremely fast, like lightning. But the current Li Fan was different from the past. Although the soul-subduing nail was fast, in his eyes, it had become slow. The soul-subduing nail could ignore a person's body and could directly pierce into the soul. However, Li Fan suddenly grabbed a crimson sword and stabbed it 7 times in an instant. Dang, dang, dang. The 7 soul-subduing nails all flew out, unable to get close to Li Fan's body. His swordplay was already natural, as if he was a sword god. If you still use this method, it will be useless. As Li Fan spoke, he walked towards Eldarin step by step. Damn it, Li Fan, I wanted to keep you alive, but since you are courting death, I will destroy your soul. Destroy your body and soul. Without the undying formation, what else do you have? Li Fan was rather disdainful. I am a heavenly immortal. I am 10 times stronger than an exalted immortal like you. You think you can fight me? Eldarin said, clapping his hands. Elder Zhong, Xiao Yin, the three of you go to destroy him. All right. Although the three elders did not like being ordered around by Eldarin, they knew that if they did not help now, it would be too late. The three elders immediately summoned their avatars, and 3 10-meter-tall giants surrounded Li Fan. These three also had 3 heads and 6 arms, and each of them had a unique artifact. Elder Zhong was holding a bag that could release gusts of wind. Elder Xiao was holding a mirror that could reflect laser beams, and Elder Lien was holding 6 swords of different colors in his 6 arms. Are the 3 of you here to die first? Li Fan nodded. Sure. You really are full of big words. Elder Zhong laughed heartily. My pocket can blow out astral winds, melt your bones, and leave you without a corpse. As he spoke, Elder Zhong opened his pocket and a black astral wind blew out. It turned into a black dragon and pounced towards Li Fan. Dragonlock Divine Weapon. With a sweep of Li Fan's long sword, the black dragon was shattered into pieces. What? Elder Zhong was shocked while Elder Xiao laughed mockingly. Elder Zhong, your astral wind pouch can't take it anymore. Leave it to me. With that, he raised his mirror. Let my heaven-splitting mirror destroy this brat. A white light shot out from the mirror and instantly hit Li Fan's body. This was the heaven-opening godly light. It could even pierce a hole in the sky. However, Li Fan only raised his left hand and filled his palm with inner force to block the god of creation light. Seeing that his invincible god of creation light was only blocked by the opponent's palm, Elder Zhao's eyes widened. The 2 of you have not used your powers for a long time. I'm afraid your powers have regressed. Elder Lien threw out his 6 rainbow swords. I have been training myself frequently. I will let the 2 of you know who is the strongest elder. Go 6 colored swords. The 6 swords flew up by themselves and shot towards Li Fan as if they were on autopilot. However, Li Fan's expression did not change. He waved the sword in his hand and easily sent the 6 rainbow swords flying. You're only SOSO. Let's work together. Let the 3 of us attack together. Let's see how this brat can block it. The 3 elders attacked together, preparing to defeat Li Fan. However, Li Fan only relied on a treasured sword to block the attacks of 3 people. No matter how much they messed around, they could not harm him at all. However, Li Fan did not like to defend all the time. After all, he was the little tyrant. While the 3 elders were besieging Li Fan's doppelganger suddenly appeared behind Elder Zhong. The doppelganger reached out and grabbed one of Elder Zhong's heads. Then with a crack, it snapped. One of Elder Zhong's heads was removed. That was not the end. The clone took out 2 sabers from his back and swung them around, successfully cutting off the other 2 heads of Elder Zhong. Elder Zhong's corpse fell into the sea and was fed to the sharks. A pitiful heavenly immortal died in Li Fan's second round of sneak attacks. Be careful. He has a clone. When the other 2 elders were about to attack the clone, Li Fan had already kept his clone. He himself flashed and quickly jumped in front of Elder Xiao, who was about to help. Elder Xiao immediately raised his mirror. Li Fan flicked his sword, and this divine treasure mirror was actually pierced through by Li Fan's sword. Although the opponent was also using a divine weapon, Li Fan's sword was transformed from a fox demon. The fox demon's evil chi and magic power fused together, causing the power of this sword to be extraordinary. Don't mention a treasure mirror. Even a mountain would be split into 2. Don't. Before Elder Xiao could finish his words, his heart was pierced by Li Fan's sword. But he was still a powerful heavenly immortal. Although his heart was pierced, he still counterattacked. Both his hands opened and slapped Li Fan's body. Bang! Li Fan's body flew back a few hundred meters and smashed the walls of the Devil Pagoda. His body fell inside. "Kill him!" Elder Shao was heavily injured, but he still roared at his companions. "Good. I will take revenge for you." Elder Lien shot out his 6 treasured swords and entered the Devil Pagoda. The treasured swords could automatically kill the enemy, so Elder Lien was waiting for them to make a contribution. But at this moment, the Devil Pagoda's wall was pierced again. Li Fan kicked the wall away and stood at the edge of the Devil Pagoda with his treasured swords. "These 6 swords are not bad." Li Fan stepped on the 6 treasured swords with 1 foot. "But it's a waste to give them to you. Let go of my 6-colored sword." Elder Lien was taken aback. His magic tool had actually been taken away. You have to bear the responsibility for recognizing the wrong master. As Li Fan spoke, he waved his hand, and the amorous sword swept across, cutting all 6 swords in half. "My 6-colored sword." Elder Lien almost cried. This was a treasure he had cultivated for thousands of years. "Don't worry, you will accompany them soon." As Li Fan spoke, his figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Elder Lien. Elder Lien was powerless to resist Li Fan's dragon-subduing sword technique. He had strength, but he didn't know how to use it, nor did he have any technique. He could only watch helplessly as Li Fan stabbed his vitals again and again. Li Fan withdrew his sword and took a few steps back. Only then did blood spurt out of Elder Lien's body, and he knelt in front of Li Fan. With a wave of his sword, Li Fan chopped off his head. Done. Li Fan didn't forget to stab Elder Shao in the back, and then looked at the pale Elder Run. "All right, who are you going to send to die next?" Chapter 1788. Li Fan's attack was as powerful as withered rotten wood, easily killing a few elders in seconds. Although these elders were powerful, they could not withstand a single blow from Li Fan, who was proficient in martial arts. "This is impossible." Elder Ren's face was ashen. "You really dare to attack us? Aren't you afraid that after we die, your Empress Qiu Shuang will also die? If you die, the soul-suppressing nail will disappear." Li Fan smiled. "I have already tested it with Elder Li. There is no problem." "Elder Li is dead?" Elder Xian's face was full of disbelief. "Impossible. She is still in sky beyond Avalon, with the soul-separating array. How can she die? I naturally have a way to deal with it." Li Fan pointed at the huge figure above. "But it'll take some effort. It's easier to do it here. Since you have such means, why do you still want to carry out this 100-day plan for me?" Elder Ren still did not understand. Why did Li Fan make such an unnecessary move? "Carrying out the 100-day plan for you is only plan firstly, to buy time, and secondly, I hope that you can fulfill your promise." Li Fan spoke the truth. If he did not buy time, he did not have 100% confidence in dealing with these elders. "Unfortunately, you do not seem to have any intention of fulfilling your promise. Since that is the case, then let's carry out Plan B. The people of Sky beyond Avalon may not deserve to die. I will naturally arrange a new place for them to go. As for you culprits, you have hurt my wife, so die decisively." Arrogant. Too arrogant. Elder Xian was hysterical. Perhaps Li Fan's strength had finally made this arrogant and despotic elder feel a sense of fear. The louder his voice, the more courage he had. "The few of you, continue to activate the array," Eldarin shouted. "I will restrain him quickly." The immortal summoning array was almost complete. Once the immortal supremacy descended, their soul-separating array would also be brought down. In that case, these elders would be immortal. Why would they be afraid of a mere Li Fan? The trump cards in his hand were all useless, so Eldarin could only take a risk. All right, the remaining 3 elders did not dare to hesitate. They even mobilized their own life force to speed up the completion of the formation. In the sky, the falling figure of the giant was getting bigger and bigger. Therefore, it wouldn't be long before this talented and famous celestial venerable would descend upon this region of the sea. Li Fan's expression turned cold. If this formation was completed, it would be difficult for him to kill them. The few soul-suppressing nails on Xiao Shuang's body were controlled by the remaining few elders. Only by killing them could Xiao Shuang wake up. This was the last step of the plan. After killing them, he would absorb beyond Avalon into his own body and then release the people on Earth. Li Fan's small universe was not strong enough to accommodate the billions of people on Earth. However, it was not a problem to take in a small realm beyond Avalon. Thinking of this, Li Fan was even more motivated. He pounced towards the three elders who were activating the formation, but a huge figure suddenly blocked his way. Elder Run was different from the ordinary elders. He seemed to be stronger and had 3 heads and 8 arms. Moreover, he was almost 20 meters tall. No wonder people said that Elder Run was the person closest to becoming a celestial venerable. Now it seemed that they were right. Kid, you will pay the price. Eldarin looked at Li Fan as if he was looking at a dead man. At this moment, the 2 princes were hiding in a corner, trembling. Even the elders were defeated. So how could they dare to go up and fight with Li Fan? That small soldier back then had become the most terrifying enemy of Beyond Avalon today. He was clearly an Earthling. Why was he able to display such terrifying strength? Could it be that he was also a celestial venerable from Earth? However, when they saw Elder Ren take out his Dharma body, the 2 princes had some hope again. How powerful was Elder Ren? He was the most powerful person in the Elders' Council. As long as he took action, Li Fan should not be a match for him, right? However, very soon, the 2 princes were disappointed. Although Elder Ren was powerful, he was still losing in the face of Li Fan's powerful martial arts. How pitiful! Li Fan looked at Elder Ren, who was beaten black and blue, and Li Fan mocked him instead. Today is not the day of my death, but the day of yours. As Li Fan said that, he pointed the long sword in his hand at Elder Ren's throat. Damn it! Elder Ren could only reach out with one hand and grab Li Fan's sword with his bare palm. His palm was bleeding from the sharp blade, but he could only endure the pain and reach out with his other hand to grab the sword tightly, not daring to let go. Doesn't it hurt? As he said that, Li Fan patted the hilt of his sword. The treasured sword immediately spun around, turning Elder Ren's hands into a bloody mess. Damn it! Elder Ren had nothing else to say. He knew that the only thing he had to do now was not to defeat Li Fan, but to stall Li Fan. As long as he could stall Li Fan, he could live. You're quite stubborn. Li Fan couldn't help but laugh when he saw Elder Ren still holding on to the sword in his current state. If you like it, I'll give it to you. Li Fan let go of the Immerse sword. Then, he took a step forward, raised his palm, and slapped it on Elder Ren's thigh. Bang! Elder Ren's left leg immediately burst open. He could not stand steadily and knelt on the ground. Li Fan leaned to the side, and with a sweep of his leg, he kicked off another head of Elder Ren. Instead of retreating, Elder Ren advanced. He reached out with his remaining hand and hugged Li Fan tightly, refusing to let go. Elder Ren, how do you want to play? Li Fan did not panic. Instead, he asked calmly, Haha, Li Fan, the great immortal summoning array is about to be completed. Elder Ren laughed. When that time comes, it will be your time to die. It will take at least 5 minutes to complete the great immortal summoning array. Li Fan calculated for Elder Ren. I can use 1 minute to get rid of you, and 3 minutes to get rid of the other 3. That's more than enough time. How arrogant of you. We are the elders of Sky beyond Avalon. We are the high and mighty Sky immortals. You want to defeat us in 1 minute? Wishful thinking. Wishful thinking. You are just a bunch of narcissistic clowns. Li Fan sneered. Earth's martial arts are enough to deal with you. With that, Li Fan's body suddenly flashed and turned into nothingness. What? Elder Ren was shocked. He did not realize that he was only holding onto Li Fan's avatar. When did they switch positions? Was he tricked? Shit. He was shocked and quickly turned his head. He discovered that Li Fan had already appeared behind Elder Xin with a great spear in his hand. He was aiming for his vitals. Chapter 1789. Elder Ren was already too late to stop him. Li Fan's great spear pierced through Elder Exion's back and came out from his chest, piercing through his heart. However, the 5 great elders were indeed worthy of their reputation. Even with a large hole in his heart, this Elder Exion was still alive. He was still persisting in casting the immortal summoning array, and Elder Ren had already rushed back. At the same time, all of his palms slapped over, forcing Li Fan to retreat. He's actually still alive. Li Fan's feet stepped on the surface of the sea. His internal force covered the seawater as if he was walking on flat ground. Li Fan, Elder Ren roared. I will definitely not let you go. What a coincidence. Li Fan smiled. Just as well, I will not let you go either. I will use my strongest power to defeat you. Eldarin said as he raised both of his hands. He seemed to be summoning something. Immediately, a golden light descended from the sky and struck Eldarin's body. Eldarin's huge body immediately swelled up by quite a bit. Soon, he grew to a height of over 50 meters, like a small pagoda. Both of his legs went deep into the sea. He coldly looked at Li Fan, his eyes filled with killing intent. His body had also changed quite a bit. He only had 2 heads left, but one had a single golden horn, while the other had a pair of silver horns. Both had a single eye. At the same time, his arms also retracted, turning into 4 limbs. His arms were also made of 2 gold and 2 silver, very special. This is a portion of divine power left behind by the celestial sovereign. What's the use of becoming bigger? As Li Fan spoke, he leaped up and fiercely stabbed the great spear in his hand towards Elder Ren's chest. Pooh! Li Fan's spear seemed to have stabbed into a piece of rubber. Elder Ren's chest caved in, and then bounced back, sending Li Fan flying back. Li Fan's body flipped in the air. Both of his feet stepped on the Devil Pagoda behind him, and like a magnet, he was attached to the Devil Pagoda's wall. He leaned against the top of the Devil Tower in a bow stance, holding the vermilion spear with both hands, looking at the huge Elder Ren in front of him. Ha ha! Although I don't have an immortal body, my body is not afraid of any attack. Elder Ren laughed heartily. Li Fan, the array will be completed soon. In a few minutes, your end will come. As he spoke, Elder Ren opened his 2 huge mouths and shot out 2 beams of light, 1 gold and 1 silver, towards Li Fan. Li Fan kicked his feet and left the magic tower. The magic tower was instantly cut into 3 pieces by the beam of light. The beam of light continued to sweep away the seawater, and the billowing white mist continued to rise. Such a terrifying power, like a laser weapon, had a very strong destructive power. If Li Fan were to graze him, even his invincible golden body might not be able to withstand it. Li Fan suddenly appeared behind Elder Ren and stabbed the back of his head with his spear. Puff! Like a gummy, Li Fan's body was bounced off again. Elder Ren suddenly turned around and grabbed Li Fan with one palm, like pinching a mosquito. He pinched him in his hand. Watch me pinch you to death. Elder Ren's 4 hands exerted strength, preparing to pinch Li Fan into a meat patty. But Li Fan continuously stabbed over 100 times, causing one of Elder Ren's hands to continuously bend, and he took advantage of the situation to bounce off, landing on the sea again and stabilizing his footing. Die! 2 beams of light swept over again. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Li Fan. Li Fan raised his arms and blocked the beam of light. Boom! Li Fan's body instantly smashed into the sea, creating a whirlpool on the sea surface. A mere human, being able to resist us to this extent, is already very impressive. Elder Ren felt that this time Li Fan was definitely dead. He borrowed a part of the Celestial Sovereign's power. If he wanted to kill him, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? I'll let you be buried here. Consider it your honor. As he spoke, Elder Ren spewed out another 2 beams of light, preparing to kill Li Fan completely. But the sea surface suddenly split open, and Li Fan jumped out with a bang. Holding a long spear, he shot towards Elder Ren like a bullet. Hee, I already said, I'm invincible. Elder Ren was very disdainful. Humans were humans, very stupid. Even if they were powerless, they still had to resist in an ugly manner. This is too ugly. Go to hell. Elder Ren swung his palm at Li Fan, as if he was swatting a fly. But Li Fan's long spear carried a crimson heat, and with a puff, it pierced through Elder Ren's palm. What? Before Elder Ren could understand what was going on, Li Fan pierced through Elder Ren's head again, then flipped over and landed on a platform. None of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals on the platform dared to attack Li Fan, not because they were cowards, but because they were no match for him at all. What was the point of going up? Going up was suicide. Elder Ren screamed a few times, losing a head. His body kept shrinking, and soon shrank to a height of more than 20 meters. With a head with a golden horn on it, he looked at Li Fan in anger and shock. He did not expect his body to be defeated by the other party. He seemed to understand what method Li Fan had used, and in an instant, he made the tip of his spear tremble. This kind of accelerated movement was faster than the naked eye, and it looked as if it had not moved at all. But this kind of friction and high heat had destroyed his invincible body. After losing a head, Elder Ren only had half of his strength left. But with this half of his strength, he had to restrain Li Fan. Elder Ren's body was huge, but he was still agile. With a leap, he came directly in front of Li Fan, then slapped at Li Fan with both hands. But Li Fan took a step back, and at the same time, his spear pointed to the left and right, piercing through Elder Ren's palms. Surprisingly, Elder Ren endured the excruciating pain. He took a step forward, grabbed Li Fan, and squeezed him in his hands. At the same time, Elder Ren opened his mouth, aimed at Li Fan, and spat out a golden beam of light. This beam of light was 2 meters thick and looked like it could swallow Li Fan whole. Bang! The beam of light instantly tore Li Fan's body to pieces. Elder Ren looked at his empty palms and finally heaved a sigh of relief. Ha ha! This worm is finally dead. Elder Ren laughed loudly. From now on, no one can threaten me. Before he could finish his words, he saw that Li Fan was standing in front of him with a long sword in his hand. He waved his hand to cut down the sword. His head flew up, and Elder Ren felt himself flying higher and higher. Finally, he landed on the top of the demon pagoda, hanging on it. Elder Ren's vitality was too strong. Even though he only had a head left, he did not die. But he had also lost the ability to fight and could only be a spectator. At this moment, Elder Ren's intestines were green with regret. He did not expect that his carelessness would make him lose Jingzhou. Chapter 1790. I was careless. I was really careless. Elder Ren shed tears of regret. How could he have imagined that Li Fan would rely on his doppelganger to trick him? Just when Elder Ren thought that the outcome was determined and let down his guard, Li Fan suddenly appeared and cut off his head. At this moment, he had no combat power, and the remaining 3 elders were forced to focus on the formation. They could not afford to be distracted. This damned Li Fan. He did not kill him on purpose to let him see how he would kill the remaining 3 elders and destroy Beyond Avalon's plan, right? Li Fan continued to attack. The remaining 3 elders had to focus on the summoning and could not afford to be distracted. They could only watch helplessly as Li Fan killed them. Li Fan! Li Fan! Li Fan! Elder Ren let out an unwilling roar. What are you trying to do? You have already destroyed the humans on Earth. What else do you want? Why don't you yield to Beyond Avalon and rule this world with us? If I didn't destroy all humans, you wouldn't have come to me obediently. Li Fan had already killed all the elders. The soul-suppressing nail in Qiu Shuang's body was almost completely removed. Even Elder Ren's root had lost all its power because of him, and it had also turned into ashes. However, I'll have to disappoint you. The humans on Earth did not die. They were moved to a small universe by me. Li Fan pointed at his heart. What? Elder Ren's eyes widened as he looked at Li Fan in disbelief. How is this possible? You're just an Earthling. How can you have a small universe? You underestimate Earthlings. Li Fan was already standing at the top of the demonic tower. He stared coldly at Elder Ren. We Chinese have a saying, know yourself and know your enemy. and you will never be defeated. As for you beyond Avalon, you only indulge in your own strength every day and night. You have already stopped improving, but we are still evolving. How can you win against earthlings like this? Eldarin felt that whatever he wanted to say was swallowed. After all, no matter what he said, he could not change the fact that beyond Avalon had already been defeated. Actually, you miscalculated. Eldarin's single, I let out a final ray of light. I still have a trump card. I didn't want to use it, but since you have the right to do so, I'll let you see it. With that, Eldarin's single, I shot out a ray of golden light into the sky and landed on the slowly dissipating figure. In an instant, the figure suddenly accelerated its descent. Li Fan was shocked. What did he do wrong? After shooting out the golden light, Eldarin's head rapidly aged like a wilted plant. I returned the Celestial Sovereign's life and removed the last restriction. Li Fan, you destroyed the sky beyond heaven. So, let the Celestial Sovereign personally destroy you. After saying this, Eldarin's shriveled face revealed a vengeful smile as he slowly enjoyed his death. He had achieved his goal. The enormous creature descended from the sky, and with a rumbling sound, the surface of the sea trembled as a giant landed in the sea. This giant was 100 meters tall and looked like a true deity. His entire body gave off a terrifying aura. Even Li Fan couldn't help but shudder when he saw him. Ever since Qiu Shuang had sacrificed herself for him, Li Fan's heart had been calm. No matter what happened, it didn't fluctuate at all. But at this moment, his heart finally lost its balance. The celestial paragon opposite him slowly opened his eyes. That pair of bottomless eyes was like the seawater under his feet, causing Li Fan to almost sink into them. Human. Senior Immortal did not speak, but his voice rang out in all directions. At this moment, all the soldiers of sky beyond heaven knelt before the Celestial Sovereign. I didn't expect you to defeat the 8 elders and free me. Senior Immortal stared at Li Fan and said slowly, I can reward you and grant you eternal life. Forget it, Li Fan replied loudly. What's the point of living for so long? Since you want to express your gratitude, then bring your people and leave this place. I am the primordial god race's celestial sovereign. Senior Immortal was expressionless as he continued. Back then, when I left my hometown, it was because I hoped that my people would have a place to stay. Now, I don't have the strength to lead my people to migrate. This Earth is our only home. Ayaya, the population on Earth is already quite high. Li Fan sighed. Everyone, please leave. Human, I can't sense any other life forms on this planet. Senior Immortal said, It is suitable for my people to live in. They are all in my little universe. Li Fan told Senior Immortal to give up. This place doesn't belong to you. I see. Senior Immortal nodded. No wonder you can kill those traitors. It turns out that you have already comprehended the same level of power as me. Ancestor, you must kill him and seek justice for us. Yes, Ancestor, he is the great enemy of our sky beyond sky. The 2 princes knelt beside Senior Immortal and begged. Shut up. Senior Immortal looked at them unhappily. The 2 of you are my children, yet you are so useless. You are a disgrace to me. Moreover, I have been trapped for thousands of years, yet you can't even rescue me. How disappointing. What Senior Immortal said was the truth. He was quite disappointed with his children. The dragon gave birth to 9 children, and each one is different. Li Fan chuckled, so I advise you not to be too sad. Human, you have guts. Senior Immortal squinted his eyes and looked at Li Fan. Even if you have mastered the little universe, your strength is still not comparable to mine. How about it? Do you want to challenge me? That's right, so what? Li Fan exercises muscles and bones. I don't like to bully the weak. I like to challenge the strong. You're not bad. You're qualified. Human, you like to lie. Senior Immortal pointed at the corpses of the elders. Since you don't like to bully the weak, how did they die? Oh, bullying noobs is another matter. What's more, they deserve to die. As Li Fan spoke, he picked up a spear again and pointed at the huge god in front of him. Senior Immortal, right? Come, let's play. The 8 elders are dead. Qiu Shuang should have been resurrected. At this moment, as long as he kills this senior immortal, everything will be settled. But Li Fan did not know that not far away, a figure was standing on the sea, quietly watching them. The devil sex saintess with a veil stood beside him. Chapter 1791. The Immortal Venerable is indeed impressive. Li Wei, who was dressed in a black and red robe, placed his hands behind his back and stepped on the surface of the sea, staring at the huge body in the distance. With such a posture, he is indeed a deity. He said to the saintess behind him without looking back, "Do you think he can win against such an opponent?" "Yes." The saintess answered without hesitation. "You're very confident in him." Li Wei nodded. "What if he goes against me? Between the two of us, who do you think will win?" The saintess remained silent. "I got it." Li Wei already knew the answer, but he was not angry. Instead, he was smiling. "You don't understand. I went to another world and came back. From the world of living, I defeated the Realm Master and entered the spiritual movement realm, where I defeated the Realm Master and finally entered the Great Wasteland realm. Unfortunately, when I challenged the Realm Lord, I failed and couldn't enter the Myriad realm. I could only flee back pathetically. At that time, I swore that would be my last failure." The saintess did not know what kind of strength the current sect master had. However, she saw that the sect master could remain calm even when facing the Immortal Venerable. That meant that the sect master was at least as powerful as the Immortal Venerable, right? However, Li Fan was not afraid either. There was no need to guess his strength. On Earth, the three of them were probably the final deciders. Everything that happened previously was just an appetizer. Besides, the duel seemed to be inevitable. "Mortal, you're very courageous to actually dare to challenge me." The Immortal Venerable praised Li Fan. "I admire your courage, but I have to feel sorry for your stupidity." With that, the Immortal Venerable stretched out his palm and pressed it against Li Fan. "I'll let you feel the power of a deity." A huge pressure was immediately exerted on Li Fan. A huge palm print with a diameter of 10 meters appeared on the surface of the sea, separating the surrounding seawater. The power of a deity. No, it should be the power of a universe. Senior Immortal was prepared to use absolute power to suppress Li Fan and kill him. However, Li Fan's expression did not change. The lightning on his body continued to wander. His whole body turned into a shadow and instantly left the range of the Immortal Prime's palm print. In just a breath's time, Li Fan had already arrived in front of the Immortal Sovereign. At the same time, he raised his sword and stabbed towards the Immortal Sovereign's forehead. Two beams of light shot out from Senior Immortal's eyes and struck Li Fan's body, sending him flying. Li Fan's body flew far away. The Immortal Reverend stretched out his hand and grabbed Li Fan's body. At this moment, Li Fan's size was even smaller than a mosquito. It was precisely because of this that Li Fan escaped from the hands of the Immortal Sovereign with a cicada shedding shell. He flashed several times in the air and appeared above the head of the Celestial Venerable. This fellow's huge body was indeed shocking. Vermilion Bird Spear. Li Fan summoned a vermilion red great spear. At the same time, he injected the power of the vermilion bird into the great spear. Then he leaped down and thrust his spear towards the Immortal Reverend. However, an eye suddenly opened in the forehead of the Immortal Reverend and looked at Li Fan. That eye released a strong golden light that struck Li Fan's body and sent Li Fan flying. This was the Immortal Reverend's divine eye. Anyone who was illuminated by the golden light would be incinerated by endless golden flames. Very quickly, Li Fan's body burned with golden flames, and in the blink of an eye, he was swallowed up. Logically speaking, in just a blink of an eye, Li Fan's body should have been incinerated by the golden flames. However, a surprising scene appeared. Li Fan was incinerated, but another Li Fan appeared behind the Immortal Reverend. He stuck to the back of the Immortal Reverend and struck an acupoint on the Immortal Reverend's back with his palm. Ursa Major Seal. This palm of Li Fan used 100% of his strength and struck an acupoint. Unexpectedly, the Immortal Reverend could not withstand it and was directly hit by this palm and spat out a mouthful of golden blood. When the soldiers from the heavens beyond heaven saw this, they were all scared silly. What the hell? How could it be? Sir Immortal Reverend was actually injured. And the one who injured him was actually this earthling that they had always looked down on. And Li Fan's principle had always been to take advantage of the enemy's weakness and kill them. He summoned the Immerse sword again and held it in his hand. He became one with the sword and instantly pierced through the Immortal Reverend's body, causing golden blood to blossom. The Immortal Reverend wanted to catch him, but Li Fan's figure was extremely fast. Moreover, the sword technique of the unity of heaven and man was as agile as a dragon. It moved and moved, making the Immortal Reverend unable to catch it. Heavenly Eye, the Immortal Reverend could only open the third eye between his eyebrows again. At the same time, golden light instantly enveloped a radius of 100 meters. Within this range, the movement of all objects slowed down. It was as if time had slowed down. Only the Immortal Reverend was not affected. The soldiers stood on the platform like statues. Some of them had their eyes wide open, while others had their mouths wide open. And in the air, Li Fan, who had become one with the sword, had his speed slowed down by 10 times. His movements could probably be seen clearly. The Immortal Reverend slapped Li Fan into the seawater below him. Bang! A huge wave rose up, and Li Fan sank into the sea. Although his body was in pain, his mind was very clear. The Immortal Reverend's strength was too strong, and he definitely could not fight him head-on. However, his huge body was also his biggest weakness. But if he had this kind of method to change time, then it would be a little tricky. After all, he was a real Immortal Reverend who had fully grasped the power of time and space. Although he had a small universe, he did not have this kind of ability. A huge force appeared and fell on Li Fan's body, pulling him out of the seawater along with the surrounding soil, fish, and shrimp. He was thrown into the air and floated around the Immortal Reverend. Li Fan immediately flipped over and stepped on a rock, staring at the Immortal Reverend in front of him. Kid, do you know the difference between a human and a god? The Immortal Reverend asked. No, your grandpa. Li Fan picked up his treasured sword again. This time, he did not use the one with the heaven and man. Instead, he continuously stepped on the surrounding gravel and coordinated with the dragon traversing 9 heavens. He quickly approached the Immortal Reverend, and at the same time, his long sword pierced towards the Immortal Reverend's glabella. At this moment, the Immortal Reverend's glabella opened again. His third eye emitted a dazzling radiance like a small sun. Li Fan's speed slowed down again. He, who originally moved like a ghost, was now as stupid as a fool. The Immortal Reverend opened his mouth and spat out a black thunderbolt, which struck Li Fan's body. Immediately, he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. He fell towards the sea once again. Li Fan relied on his invincible golden body to survive. But the pain was multiplied, causing Li Fan to almost scream out in pain. Chapter 1792. Li Fan lies in the sea. The cold seawater wraps around him, making him more awake. The celestial sovereign's strength is obvious. He cannot go head-to-head with him, but the ability of his third eye is very heaven-defying. Slowing down time, this difficulty is simply too terrifying. If this is a game, it would definitely be at death's door. Li Fan's body suddenly separates the waves. In the blink of an eye, he once again appears in front of the celestial sovereign. The celestial sovereign once again opens his third eye, releasing a golden brilliance. This kind of terrifying ability seemed to be endless, and he could use it whenever he wanted to. Time is slowed down again. Li Fan's speed is greatly reduced. The celestial sovereign's palm is also in front of Li Fan. Activate! Li Fan roars. He suddenly moves again in this time-sealed space. He stretches out his hands and blocks the celestial sovereign's palm. Crane tap. Li Fan strikes out a few crane palms. His fingers are like small hammers, hitting the celestial sovereign's palm. The celestial sovereign immediately feels his right hand go numb. Even the celestial sovereign has acupuncture points in his body. For such a huge body, the acupuncture points are very obvious. The celestial sovereign spits out a gust of wind, blowing Li Fan's body away. At the same time, he frowns, somewhat shocked. How did you break this seeds times sealed space? Isn't that easy? Li Fan smiles. I just need to increase my speed. You increased your speed by 10 times? The celestial sovereign is a little shocked. He cannot believe his ears. Even he didn't have such speed. It seems like this human also has his own unique ability. Moreover, when his speed has increased to this level, he can indeed ignore his own time-sealed space ability. This seat has misjudged. The celestial sovereign's eyes turn serious. Kid, you do have some ability. However, the one who will laugh in the end will still be this seat. The celestial sovereign has absolute confidence in his own strength. Who is he? He is one of the few super experts of the primordial gods. He has cultivated for almost 10,000 years to reach this extreme level. As long as he was willing, he could definitely destroy this earthling with a wave of his hand. Even if he had a pocket universe, it was just a coincidence. There was no way he could compare to Meng Qi, who had been cultivating diligently. Since that's the case, I should be a little more serious. The third eye between the celestial venerable's eyebrows opened again, and the sky suddenly changed color. The entire sky was covered with dark clouds, black winds blew, and the sea waves rolled. A big shot who had the ability to turn the world upside down, just like he said, started to get serious. Mountain. As the celestial prime spoke, his palm slammed down and pressed down on Li Fan. This feeling was really like being crushed by Mount Tai, causing Li Fan to tremble uncontrollably. A celestial venerable was indeed a celestial venerable. Just in terms of aura alone, he had completely crushed him. However, Li Fan was still filled with confidence. He was different from the celestial lord. The other party was from the primordial god race and had learned the true immortal arts since birth. However, he had entered the Tao through martial arts, and could use rich and exquisite martial skills to defeat this fellow. That huge palm had already arrived in front of Li Fan, pressing down like a disaster. Li Fan did not dodge. Although the celestial venerable's strength was great, he was not inferior in terms of technique. The seawater was split apart by the power of the celestial venerable's palm. As for Li Fan, he fell to the bottom of the sea. His legs were like roots rooted to the seabed. At the same time, power rose from the soles of his feet and through his waist, converging into his palms. Bang! Li Fan used his tiny body to forcefully resist this huge palm. The sea trembled. At the same time, an avatar popped out from behind Li Fan. The avatar held a vermilion spear and stabbed the acupoint of the celestial venerable's palm. The celestial venerable felt pain and took a step back. He looked at Li Fan in shock. He could actually fight back? Mortal, your strength is not weak, and your courage is not small. The celestial venerable's eyes became sharper and sharper. This seat will kill you and seize your soul. The celestial venerable was prepared to completely destroy Li Fan. This way, there would no longer be any threats in the universe, and he could become a true great ruler. Dark space. The celestial venerable stretched out his hands and then slowly closed them in front of his chest. Li Fan felt as if the surrounding air was compressed, squeezing him with all its might. Li Fan wanted to leave, but he found that his surroundings were sealed by an invisible wall. It was like an invisible cage trapping him inside. The most terrifying thing was that this cage was still shrinking. Li Fan exerted his strength and desperately attacked the surrounding transparent wall. But no matter how hard he tried, he was like a caged beast, unable to break free from this terrifying cage. Disappear. The celestial venerable clapped his hands together. There was a popping sound like the sound of a bottle cap being opened. Li Fan's figure completely disappeared in front of the celestial venerable. When Li Fan's eyes regained its brightness again, he found himself in an absolute space of nothingness. There was only a blur here, no sky, no earth, not even light. Li Fan could only rely on his internal force perception to feel everything around him, but he found that there was nothing around him. Where's this? Li Fan could not help but ponder. Could this be the celestial venerable's microcosm? If that's the case, then it's over. But it's not possible. To collect me into the microcosm, the celestial venerable must first kill me. But although this guy is powerful, he does not have the ability to kill me. He seemed to rely on some kind of power to transport himself into a strange space. As a powerful existence who has mastered a real microcosm, the celestial venerable's understanding of time and space has reached a higher level. Relying on this understanding of space, he successfully used his ability to transport Li Fan somewhere. And this place is indeed more terrifying than a cage. Li Fan did not panic. He knew that since he could come, he could naturally go out. Li Fan crossed his legs, and his whole person seemed to be floating in the void. He expelled all his distracting thoughts and calmed his mind. Everything around him was still so empty. Li Fan felt that he seemed to have become ethereal with nothing left. But in this ethereal state, he maintained a trace of consciousness and placed it in the position of the beer. Li Fan vaguely felt a familiar power, as if it was calling him. That's right, there's a very important person to me in that place. For her, I also have to go back there. Li Fan has found the direction. The next step is how to use this direction to leave this dark world. Chapter 1793. Li Fan had already found the way out. The next step was to leave this godforsaken place. However, it was clearly not easy to leave this dark world. Li Fan's thoughts spun quickly. He suddenly thought of a scene in Dragon Ball. Gotenks was trapped in the House of Spooks. Later, he imitated the demonic doll's method and used his voice to create a hole in the space before escaping. This was the plot of a manga, but Li Fan felt that it made sense. From a certain perspective, space was very sturdy. But looking at it from another angle, it seemed very fragile. The ancient saying about shattering the void and ascending to the immortal world should be based on this logic. Sound was produced by vibration. In other words, if the sound was loud enough, it would definitely affect the stability of this space. As Li Fan thought of this, he began to prepare. He crossed his hands and quickly mobilized the internal energy in his body. He lifted it from a mini-universe and injected it into his throat. War Dragon Roar. Li Fan suddenly opened his eyes. A huge force erupted from his throat as he spat it out. Roar. The entire space seemed to tremble. It was like a glass jar that was about to shatter. There were cracks everywhere. Kacha. The space in front of him finally shattered, revealing a circular space that looked like a black hole. Li Fan's body leaped and was about to jump into this black hole. At this moment, a hand suddenly reached out from behind and grabbed Li Fan's collar, pulling him back. The black hole also disappeared in front of his eyes. Li Fan was shocked and angry. He turned around and saw a man with a somewhat evil aura standing behind him. He was wearing a black trench coat and had a cigarette in his mouth. He looked at himself from head to toe. Li Fan was a little surprised. This was an alternate world where no one should exist. Why would a human appear? The powerful energy I felt was you? He chuckled. Not bad. You have some value. Who are you? Li Fan felt a strong threat from the other party. He immediately raised his vigilance and mobilized the inner force in his body to 100%. As if sensing Li Fan's terrifying power, the surrounding space trembled once more. Don't worry. Unbeknownst to him, the other party suddenly stretched out his hand and patted his shoulder. Li Fan was shocked. Although it was just a pat on his shoulder, it was silent. He didn't even notice it. What a terrifying power. Who was this person? Who are you? Li Fan was not afraid. At this point, no matter who stood in front of him, he would use his absolute strength to defeat them. Me? My name is Qin Chao. The other party shrugged. I'm not from your world. I just happened to find this place when I crossed over. Transmigration? Li Fan's expression did not change, but his heart was like a stormy sea. Those who could travel through planes were all super experts, right? Even a senior immortal did not have this ability. Kid, you're not bad. You have some strength. Even if that mysterious Qin Chuan saw you, I'm afraid that he would also be extremely happy. The other party said as he puffed out a smoke ring. Little friend, how did you come to this godforsaken place? The other party was around 30 years old, but he called him little friend, which made Li Fan slightly unhappy. I was fighting with someone and was sent here by him. Li Fan frowned. Also, don't call me little friend. I'm not that much younger than you. What a shabby sight. The other party did not say anything, but looked at Li Fan. Since we met, it can be considered fate. I am a person who cares about fate the most. How about this? How about I teach you a set of techniques? The other party was a little proud. I only need a thought, and you can learn my techniques. Isn't it very convenient? Do you want to learn my 9U Devil Palm or the 9U Summon technique? If you master these two to the extreme, you can walk sideways. No. However, Li Fan rejected the other party. I have my own path to walk. Go do what you need to do. I should also deal with my enemies. Good kid, you have ambition. The other party seemed to be a little resentful. Since that's the case, I'll send you off for free. I hope to see you again in the Myriad Realm in the future. He muttered in his heart, I'm in a hurry right now. I'll teach you a lesson when I reach the Myriad Realm. After saying that, his eyes lit up. Big idiodynamic method. Go back to where you came from. Just as he finished speaking, Li Fan's body immediately disappeared from the world of darkness. Stinking brat, when we meet again in the future, I will definitely let you know how powerful I am. Qin Chuan, just you wait, I will take care of you first. With that, his body flashed and disappeared from this world. Prepare to clean up this world. At this moment on Earth, the immortal sovereign stood on the sea and said to the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals below him, completely transform this place into an environment that is only suitable for us primordial gods to live in. This way, our race will be able to recover their fertility. On the other hand, the original Earthlings will lose their fertility. The biggest enemy had been eliminated, and the immortal sovereign was preparing to carry out the final transformation project. Although the amount of work was a bit large, it was not difficult for the primordial gods who had endless lifespans. Great Ancestor, you are the strongest existence in this universe. The first prince and the second prince hurriedly came over to flatter him. As your descendants, we will definitely be at your beck and call. We will do our best until the day we die. You two good-for-nothings. The immortal sovereign looked at the two of them and could not help but sigh. I am wise and mighty. How did I give birth to you two descendants? Why is it that among my descendants, there is no genius as strong as that Earthling? The two of us will work hard and will definitely not disappoint you. The two of them were in fear and trepidation. Forget it. This world already belongs to me. The immortal sovereign's face was filled with pride. An expert is lonely. Unfortunately, that Earthling is already dead. Just as he finished speaking, the space suddenly split open, and a figure jumped out from the void, holding a vermilion spear in his hand, and thrusted the spear towards the immortal sovereign below him. The immortal sovereign looked up. My goodness, isn't this the Earthling that he was muttering about just now? Vermilion spear. Li Fan was already falling down like a meteor, falling towards the immortal sovereign. The immortal sovereign did not react, but a powerhouse is a powerhouse. His third eye subconsciously opened, and a ball of golden light was released around his body. Bang! Li Fan's spear pierced the immortal sovereign's golden light barrier. This light barrier immediately caved in, and the spear pushed out more than a meter long. Chapter 1794. This light shield seemed like it would be broken at any time. Even an immortal sovereign could not help but break out in a cold sweat. But his heavenly eye could only use one ability at a time. Moreover, with a light shield, the other party could not hit him, and he could not hit the other party. This kind of ability was relatively useless and belonged to an automatic protection method. The immortal sovereign himself also did not expect that Li Fan could actually force him to this extent. Puff! This golden shield was still shattered in the end. Li Fan's long spear carried scorching energy and arrived above the immortal sovereign's head just like that. Rumble! In the surging fire waves, the immortal sovereign's body suddenly disappeared. Li Fan frowned. He absolutely did not believe that he could kill an immortal sovereign with one spear. This guy was very sneaky. Maybe he used some kind of method to disappear. Very soon, a huge palm suddenly appeared from the void, and a slap landed on Li Fan's body. Smack! Just like swatting a mosquito, Li Fan's entire body was slapped flying out. With a rumble, he smashed into the seawater. The sea set off huge waves, and Li Fan's body sank into it again. This sea area could be considered to be bloody, unlucky. God knows how many fish and shrimps in the surroundings died. The seawater was already dyed blood red. Very shocking. Li Fan drilled out of the seawater, and the immortal sovereign's figure had already disappeared again. This guy was also shameless enough. A dignified immortal sovereign still used this kind of insidious means. It seemed that this immortal sovereign was an ambitious and ruthless person. Li Fan closed his eyes and searched for the immortal sovereign's aura. But an expert was an expert. The immortal sovereign hid very well, almost completely without any aura. He could not find any trace at all. Just based on you can't find this seat. The immortal sovereign's mocking voice sounded in his ears. This voice seemed to be sounding from all directions, making Li Fan unable to track it down. If this continued, it was really too disadvantageous for him. Li Fan maintained his composure. In this kind of battle, if anyone lost their mind first, it was equivalent to falling into a state of certain defeat. When experts exchanged blows, what they competed on was not just their combat strength. Li Fan crossed his arms, his eyes focused on his nose, and his nose focused on his heart, allowing himself to enter a very ethereal state. At the same time, the yuan qi in his body was released, spreading to a radius of 100 meters. In this area, as long as there was the slightest disturbance, Li Fan would notice it immediately. At this moment, the essence qi on the left fluctuated. Li Fan's lips curled into a cold smile. He raised his palm and slapped it to the side. Bang! A huge palm collided with Li Fan's small palm. They were clearly not evenly matched, but they had fought to a draw. Rumble. The seawater beneath him exploded, and the giant arm disappeared again. Li Fan stepped on the seawater, his legs unmoving. Li Fan bore part of the immortal venerable's power, and the rest was channeled into the seawater beneath him through his feet. No matter how strong an immortal venerable was, he did not have the strength to destroy a planet. It was safer to let the vast ocean share the power with him. Such a method of using power was something an immortal venerable could not grasp. The primordial deity race only had power, but they did not know how to use it. This was the key to Li Fan's victory. Bang! A bolt of lightning suddenly spewed out of the void, heading straight for Li Fan. Supreme Dragon Fist. However, Li Fan quickly turned around and punched the lightning bolt. Pah! The sea surged again, and Li Fan took 2 steps back. Black smoke came out of his fist. However, no matter what, he still blocked this lightning bolt. Although the lightning bolt was fast, Li Fan's Supreme Dragon Fist was not slow either. At the same time, Li Fan roared, activating the War Dragon Roar. The sound wave quickly spread out, crashing into the surroundings and creating waves in the seawater. At the same time, the immortal venerable's huge figure was knocked out by the sound wave. He stood in the sea in a somewhat sorry state, looking at Li Fan with anger. The Celestial Prime was really depressed. He never thought that he would be defeated by this earthling again and again. He was an immortal venerable, a true elite of the primordial deity race. Even on his own planet, he was an expert ranked in the top 100. Why was he at a disadvantage again and again today? He was not this man's match? It looks like the immortal venerable is only SOS. Li Fan crossed his arms and looked at the immortal venerable. You want to invade someone else's homeland with such strength? You overestimate yourself. Li Fan was deliberately angering the immortal venerable. He felt that the immortal venerable still had some trump card that he had not shown. Xiao Chun had to anger the immortal venerable and make him show his trump card. The immortal venerable seemed to have reached his limit. He let out a roar and raised his hands. Then he pointed his fingers at his forehead. "Insignificant earthling, I will show you the true might of the heavenly eye." Even if this move would affect him, it did not matter. If he did not get rid of this earthling, he could only escape into the universe in a sorry state and escape from here forever. Eye of creation. The immortal venerable's third eye opened again, and the golden light instantly covered the sea. Li Fan suddenly felt his whole body tremble. This time did not slow down. It was as if it had stopped. Oomph. The immortal venerable looked at Li Fan, who was almost motionless. Without hesitation, he spat out a thunderbolt and hit Li Fan's body. Li Fan was blown away by the explosion. He repeatedly floated on the surface of the sea and finally smashed into the sea. This time, the immortal venerable slowed down time by almost 100 times. With such terrifying strength, even if the earthling's speed was fast, there was no way to break it. However, although this ability was powerful, it also had a deep impact on him. Using it once, the immortal venerable consumed almost 100 years of his cultivation. Even if he used it a few more times, he would not be able to withstand it. The most important thing was to quickly get rid of this Li Fan. As long as he got rid of him, then everything would be under his control and in his own hands. Li Fan fell heavily into the sea. He spat out a large mouthful of blood. Many parts of his body had been charred by the thunder and lightning. But at the same time, countless black tentacles flew out from Li Fan's body and wrapped around the surrounding sharks, instantly swallowing them all. Soon, Li Fan returned to his original body. He was bare-chested, floating in the sea, thinking about countermeasures to deal with the immortal venerable. This guy was too difficult to deal with, but it didn't matter. He would deal with it when it came. No matter what level the enemy was, Li Fan would use his own strength to defeat him. This was the glory of a martial artist. Li Fan did not hide in the water. He jumped up and jumped to the surface of the sea. His feet stepped on the sea again. With the spread of internal force, Li Fan's footsteps were very stable. He calmly looked at the tall man opposite him. He came from another part of the universe, bringing with him aggression and destruction. His huge figure through the water mist seemed to be oppressing Li Fan's body. Chapter 1795. Darkness pressed down on Li Fan's body while the celestial sovereign's voice rang in Li Fan's ears. "Have you rested enough?" The celestial sovereign said as he raised his hand. "Don't be anxious. The battle has just begun." The third eye between his eyebrows was still bright. With the movement of his hand, the seawater suddenly condensed into a huge fist and directly rose into the sky. A punch landed on Li Fan's body. Bang! As if he was hit by a rocket, Li Fan's body directly flew high and instantly penetrated the atmosphere. His entire body blasted into space. Li Fan instantly activated the tortoise suction technique, held his breath, flipped over, and stepped on an artificial satellite. He only needed to flick again, and he would be able to return to Earth. Fighting in space is very disadvantageous for Li Fan. He is a martial artist, and a martial artist needs to breathe. Oxygen is very important to a martial artist, so breathing is the foundation of a martial artist. At this moment, if he holds his breath, Li Fan can only exert about 80% of his strength. Against an opponent of the Celestial Sovereign's level, he really can't afford to lose even a bit of strength, let alone lose 30%. Sorry for the wait. The Celestial Sovereign's figure suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan. It is still the same huge body, but in the universe, it seems incomparably small. However, in comparison, Li Fan is even smaller. The Celestial Sovereign's voice directly sounded in Li Fan's mind. It is very clear. "This place is very suitable to be your grave." As the Celestial Sovereign spoke, he once again opened his third eye. At this moment, a military base on Earth suddenly ejected dozens of intercontinental missiles, directly rushing out of the atmosphere and blasting towards Li Fan. The celestial sovereign's heaven's eye is like the will of Earth, controlling everything on Earth. These intercontinental missiles are fierce, and in an instant, they shot in front of Li Fan with flames. Crane hand, Li Fan operated the invincible golden body and, at the same time, slapped with his palm, sending the intercontinental missiles flying away. Boom, boom, boom. These missiles exploded one after another around Li Fan. Such a powerful explosion, even a shockwave of the explosion could burn people to ashes. However, Li Fan was Li Fan. His invincible golden body completely resisted these waves of fire. However, the shockwave from the explosion was not small, and it disrupted Li Fan's movement technique. And the palm of the Immortal Prime had already slapped towards Li Fan's body. Li Fan didn't have time to dodge and was slapped in the face. His body flew up like a meteor, streaked across the sky, and crashed into the moon in the distance. Li Fan often came to this place in his mini-universe, but he couldn't do it in the real world. After all, Li Fan still needed to breathe. The celestial supremacy also jumped over. At the same time, a huge palm that was like a mountain came crashing down on Li Fan. Oomph. Li Fan snorted and raised his hand at the same time, forcefully holding this huge palm. Billowing smoke and dust filled the air, and a huge pit was formed under Li Fan's feet. But Li Fan's eyes were still glowing. At the same time, he exerted force from his waist and actually grabbed the celestial supremacy's palm, lifted him up, and then smashed him on the ground behind him. Rumble! The surface of the moon trembled, and the celestial supremacy fell hard. Li Fan's bear hug was executed to the fullest. Even an expert like the celestial supremacy couldn't help but be defeated. Damn mortal! The celestial supremacy roared again and again. He was really about to explode. This young man in front of him. How could he have such ability? In this universe, logically speaking, with the ability of an Earthling, he shouldn't be able to withstand it. Bang! And Li Fan's principle was to take advantage of his weakness. He suddenly jumped up and dashed in front of the Celestial Prime. Aiming at his face, he gave a series of punches that covered his face. Bang, 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 bang. The punches were short and rapid, suddenly exploding on the surface of the moon, and then suddenly disappearing. Li Fan's punches were fiercer and fiercer, as if he couldn't wait to smash the Celestial Supremacy's head into pieces. But the Celestial Supremacy's third eye opened again, and in an instant, Li Fan's body was once again fixed in place. Die! The Celestial Supremacy waved his hand, and the stones on the surface of the moon flew up, forming a huge stone hammer, and slammed into Li Fan's body, like a game of whack-a-mole, smashing him into the ground of the moon. The universe was a battlefield that belonged to the Celestial Supremacy. He didn't believe that he couldn't deal with a small Earthling in this place. But Li Fan's figure stood up again. At the same time, he raised the stone hammer, grabbed the end of the hammer with both hands, and with his small body, he swung the stone hammer heavily. The sound of the wind was cut through, and the stone hammer smashed into the Celestial Supremacy's body. The Celestial Supremacy was also smashed by this stone hammer, and he almost fell to the ground. He stabilized his body in the air, and his feet landed on the surface of the moon again. This brat, why is he so ferocious? The Celestial Supremacy was about to fall, but Li Fan had already pounced at his face again. The Celestial Supremacy's face was already swollen from the beating, and he almost subconsciously opened his third eye, preparing to seal the space again. This time, I won't hold back. I want to make him die without a burial place. Just as the Celestial Supremacy was thinking this, Li Fan, who should have been sealed immediately, suddenly punched. Supreme Dragon Fist. In the next second, Li Fan was sealed, but the Celestial Supremacy's third eye suddenly burst out with golden blood. He screamed in pain, covered his eye, and took 2 steps back. Although Li Fan's speed was slowed down, his Supreme Dragon Fist broke through the speed of 100 times, hitting the vital spot. Li Fan had been waiting for this opportunity. He purposely took the attack of the celestial supremacy a second time to make the other party careless. Then, when the celestial supremacy used the Eye of Time for the third time, it would be his doomsday. Indeed, the celestial supremacy was clearly severely injured. He covered his eye and only knew to scream in pain, but he had no time to care about anything else. Overturning the sky and stirring the sea, Li Fan's figure already appeared in front of the celestial supremacy. At the same time, he sent a profound dragon ice palm at the celestial supremacy's back. With Li Fan's current ability, although he did not have the support of the ice, this palm strike still had 100% of its might. Bang! The celestial supremacy's huge figure was sent flying by Li Fan's palm strike. The gravity of the moon was very low, so the celestial supremacy was like a cannonball crashing back to Earth. Li Fan's legs bounced off the moon, and his body was covered in flames. Then, he fell toward Earth together with the celestial supremacy. The celestial supremacy tried to stabilize his body in the air. He endured the intense pain from his heavenly eye and prepared to counterattack. However, Li Fan had already expected this. He stuck close to the celestial supremacy's thigh and ran, avoiding the lightning that the celestial supremacy spat out, quickly arriving at the celestial supremacy's chest. Profound dragon spitting pearl. Li Fan sent out a chi pearl from his palm and smashed it heavily on the celestial supremacy's chest. Chapter 1796. Bang! A loud muffled sound accompanied by the immortal senior's painful wail. His body fell even faster. The two of them emitted sparks, but one is an immortal senior and the other has an invincible golden body. These sparks have little effect on them. However, the immortal senior did not give up the opportunity to beat up Li Fan. From his mouth, he suddenly spat out a 3-meter-tall burly man. This burly man looks like an immortal senior. Under the immortal senior's control, he pounced towards Li Fan. He grabbed a huge sword in his hand and slashed down on Li Fan's head. Li Fan did not care at all. Since he was on Earth, he could breathe again. As he breathed, the power began to spread from the soles of his feet to his lower abdomen and then into his internal organs. A shining, huge sword has already reached the top of his head. However, Li Fan only stretched out 5 fingers and pinched this huge sword. Dragon, catch your hand. Li Fan's palm pinched the sword. At the same time, he lifted his right foot and kicked the immortal senior's lower abdomen. A mere avatar that does not know any martial arts. How can it fight against him? Li Fan easily dealt with this avatar, but he was surprised to find that the surrounding immortal senior avatars are slowly standing up one after another. They separated from the immortal sovereign's flesh and blood. There were more than 100 of them, and they surrounded Li Fan. These avatars carried out the immortal senior's orders. Each of them was holding a huge sword, and they all pounced towards Li Fan. Dragon's teeth. Li Fan continuously thrust at his legs. Each of his legs was like a phantom, constantly defeating the surrounding avatars. However, the avatars did not stop. They were like dumplings being put into a pot. They pounced towards Li Fan's side. Passionate. This was not the way to go on. Li Fan roared and stretched out his hand. A scarlet sword immediately appeared in his hand. Tornado remnant clouds. Li Fan waved his hand and swept his sword. His powerful inner force was injected into the treasured sword, transforming into sword chi. Then he swept it out, spinning in the air, forming a huge tornado. The doppelgangers that rushed over were immediately swept into pieces by his tornado. Li Fan continued to move forward and jumped onto the Immortal Prime's face. He then punched his face fiercely. Very quickly, this immortal sovereign was beaten until his head was swollen like a pig, and he lost the aura that a sovereign should have. At this moment, the immortal lord's body suddenly stopped in midair. His body emitted a huge shockwave that shook Li Fan away. Both of their bodies floated in the air. Immortal Reverent relied on his own magic power, while Li Fan stood on a 10-meter-long green dragon. He was defeated again and again, and finally realized the gap between him and Li Fan. The battle between him and Li Fan had come to an end. No matter what method he used, he could not defeat Li Fan. Moreover, Li Fan had injured his Heaven's Eye, which made him lose the means to continue fighting. However, he already had another plan. No matter what, he could not let Li Fan get what he wanted. Earthling, do you think that you have already won? Immortal Reverent looked coldly at Li Fan, his eyes revealing deep hatred. You will definitely lose. Li Fan held his sword, stood on the green dragon, and glared at Immortal Reverent. As long as he killed Immortal Reverent, everything would return to normal. You underestimate the power of a sovereign. Even if I cannot take this place, I can destroy it. With that, the Immortal Reverent's eyebrows split open again, and a scarlet eye appeared. This eye seemed to be filled with blood, and it was very scary. The Eye of Creation is also the Eye of Annihilation. Immortal Reverent said in a loud voice, "Since this world is not mine, then destroy it." As he spoke, the red eye became even redder. At the same time, behind Immortal Reverent, the red light continued to extend out and then injected into the earth, constantly drawing something on the earth. The gigantic earth suddenly opened a crimson eye. This scene was very strange. Immortal Reverent turned into a pool of blood, but his voice came from every corner of the earth. Ha ha! This sovereign and this planet have merged into one. From this moment on, this sovereign is the earth, and the earth is this sovereign. Li Fan looked at the earth that had been poisoned below him, and his heart was beating very fast. The fear that had disappeared long ago once again pervaded his heart. Like some kind of virus, it quickly grew and spread in his body. The entire earth has turned into Immortal Reverent. The sea below him suddenly trembled, and from the seawater, countless giant hands suddenly flew out and grabbed at Li Fan. The azure dragon below Li Fan spewed out one storm after another, shattering the giant hands that stretched out around him. But the giant hands quickly condensed again and grabbed at him again. This was the will of Immortal Reverent, and at the same time, it was also the will of the earth. At that moment, Li Fan actually felt a little despair. Everything that he had calculated seemed to be over. His little universe could not let the Earthlings exist for too long. Sooner or later, he would have to let them back. But the earth had already become like this. How could they come back? Even if they came back, they would become food for Immortal Reverent. What could he do? Could it be that he had to destroy the earth? What are you going to do? At this moment, a figure appeared beside Li Fan. Li Fan was a little surprised. He turned his head and saw that the Saintess was standing on a red cloud beside Li Fan. When did you? The sect master sent me here. The Saintess sighed. He only asked me to ask you one question. What are you going to do? Li Fan had only two choices now. One was to leave this place and hide in the heavens beyond heaven. The other was to find a way to destroy the earth and kill the Immortal Reverent. However, no matter which option he chose, the Earthlings would still die. I have no other choice now. Li Fan's mind was in a mess. The sect master gave you a choice. The Saintess said while taking out a jade pendant. The Great Seal technique is recorded here, which can seal the soul of the Immortal Reverent in the body of the earth forever and make him fall into an endless slumber. Great Seal technique? Where did your sect master get it from? You don't have to worry about that. The Saintess suddenly trembled, and then she spoke in the voice of someone else. Li Wei? Li Fan knew that Li Wei had used a certain method to control the Saintess and use her to send a voice transmission to him. Yes, it's me. Li Wei's tone was very similar to that of the Immortal Reverent. As long as you learn this Dharma spell, you will be able to seal the Immortal Reverent. Why are you helping me? Li Fan did not believe that there would be a free lunch in the world. I just came back here by chance to watch the fun. Don't worry, this is not my purpose. I'm not interested in such a low-level playing. Chapter 1797. Using the body of the Saintess, Li Wei continued to speak to Li Fan. However, this is the place where I made my fortune. After all, I don't want those outsiders to succeed. Li Wei continued to ask Li Fan, however, if you want to seal Earth, you have to give up something too. Indeed, there's no free lunch. Li Fan stared at the Saintess. Tell me, what I have to give up? You need to release the power of your little universe. That way, the Earthlings that you have collected will naturally return, and the celestial supremacy will also be sealed by you through the Great Seal technique. Of course, I can also use the power of the universe that you release to travel back to the Great Wasteland. This is naturally a win-win situation. Li Wei did not hide anything. Of course, there is another way for you, who has absolute strength. Li Wei pointed up and continued, you can totally escape to the heavens beyond heaven and dominate there. At the same time, release your friends and lovers there. As for the rest of the Earthlings, let them fend for themselves. You will build a beautiful paradise there for generations to live in. When your little universe is complete, you can even bring your people across the universe and head to another suitable colony. Li Wei was like a Baidu encyclopedia that helped Li Fan explain everything and even imagined it. In the end, the choice is in your hands. Be selfish or be selfless and give up the opportunity to become a god to save these ignorant people. After saying those words, the Saintess returned to her original state and looked at Li Fan in a daze. Your sect master is indeed an extraordinary person. Li Fan had already crushed the jade pendant, and the method of the Great Seal technique was immediately transmitted to his mind. The Great Seal technique would indeed consume the energy of his little universe. In that case, his little universe would completely disappear. He did not know how long it would take for him to cultivate it back, as well as the opportunity. But none of that mattered anymore. Li Fan couldn't abandon these people on Earth and live a carefree life on his own. Although there were some unreasonable humans, most of them were not bad. Everyone had their own chance to live. They were all like him in the past, fighting for a small goal in life. No matter what, he could not deprive them of their right to live. Let's talk about becoming a god in the future. As Li Fan spoke, he began to gather the power of his little universe. At this moment, the figure of a woman slowly appeared in front of him. Master, Feng Xiaoshua's body was in a trance as she stared at Li Fan in a daze. I'm sorry, Xiaoshua. I'm afraid I can only wake you up in the future. It's all right, Master. However, Feng Xiaoshua smiled and gently tapped a finger on Li Fan's forehead. I will live here forever. After saying that, Feng Xiaoshua's body slowly disappeared. Li Fan grabbed 2 balls of green light with both hands and slowly gathered the 2 balls of green light together. Heavens, what do you want to do? As if feeling the terrifying pressure, the huge red eyes on Earth widened as if they were about to split open. The Celestial Prime's trembling voice rang in Li Fan's ears. Don't, we can discuss. The Celestial Prime had already realized what Li Fan was thinking. He screamed in fear, but Li Fan did not give him a chance to struggle and resist. This guy is too cunning. He must not be allowed to live. Li Fan's hands came together as the green light condensed into a ball and turned into a green beam of light that fell towards the ground. Help! The Celestial Prime let out a scream as the green light hit him right between the eyebrows. The red eyes slowly disappeared, and the scream also became softer and softer. Soon, the red eyes disappeared completely. At the same time, Li Fan began to bleed from his 7 orifices. From his back, countless white lights spurted out and turned into countless stars that rushed into the sky and fell towards Earth. These were the Earthlings that Li Fan had collected. When Li Fan's little universe collapsed, they returned to the real world and returned to their homes. I'm back. What happened just now? It seems like I'm back home. One by one, the Earthlings appeared in their homes and on the streets, looking at each other. Li Fan, what did he do? Zhang Feng returned to City A and stood on the top of the teaching building of number 2 high school. His eyes were slightly confused. At this moment, a familiar woman stood on the roof of the building opposite him. She was wearing a beautiful cheongsam, and her charm was still amazing. You're back too? Zhang Feng said to Murong Ying. And Murong Ying frowned slightly. It's like It's like a dream. In Li Fan's little universe, although everything was the same, there was a feeling of unreality. After all, it was not his own world. There was always a sense of unreality. Murong Ing raised her hands and touched them again. Yes, they were all real. What did Li Fan do? It's really strange. Jiang Feng was somewhat confused. All of this was beyond his ability to think. Just a few minutes later, the Earthlings returned to their original places, and Li Fan had exhausted his strength and was slowly falling to the ground. Without hesitation, the Saintess jumped down from the red cloud and hugged Li Fan. Why did you also jump down? Li Fan looked at the Saintess in front of him. We don't have the feeling of going through life and death together. You said we don't. The gust of falling wind finally blew off the veil on the Saintess's face. A delicate and beautiful face appeared in front of Li Fan. Li Fan froze and then smiled. Oh, I feel like a fool. Then what do I look like when I fall in love with a fool like you? Lu Zhu leaned her head on Li Fan's chest. You're also a fool. Why did you jump down? Even if we can't live together, we can still die together. Lu Zhu said in Li Fan's ear. At least remember my real name. Lu Runju. Okay. Li Fan nodded, but we won't die. Just as he finished speaking, a huge green dragon flew over with a roar. It grabbed the two of them with its claws and slowly flew towards the ground. Not knowing why, Lu Runju, who was very bold just now, actually blushed a little. Don't you regret it? Lu Runju tried to change the topic and asked, regret what? Regret giving up the opportunity to become a god. Our leader is willing to do anything to become a god. He is him, I am me. Li Fan laughed. I have you. It's enough even if I don't become a god. And that's great. What's great? Knowing that you are a girl, I finally don't have to doubt my sexual orientation. Go to hell. The Azure Dragon flew toward the Leaf Family Island, facing the slowly rising sun. At the end of the book, the main story is basically over. Everyone should be able to see the main character of Li Fan. He is destined to sacrifice himself to save the Earth. However, I know you haven't read enough. There is an epilogue which can be regarded as an Easter egg after the ending to satisfy the reader's appetite. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.